Between the two of them.
The inside of Coates.
Watkins gets too heavily involved.
And that's Whitehead and Coates.
Hello everyone and welcome to round 3 of the Virtual Reality Racing Club World Super Touring Car Championship. It is great to be back. Another week already ticks on by. Last week, of course, Bathurst, what a fantastic round. But this time out, we're here at the Pascani Motor Park, a fictional track here in Romania. Not a traditional racing venue or not a traditional home of racing that you might think of, but one that I'm sure is going to deliver some great racing. I am Reeve Taylor. I'm very privileged to be joined by Becky Aparicio. How are you doing this evening, Becky?
I'm doing very well, thank you, Reeve. Pleasure to be in the virtual comms box alongside yourself. I was just saying before we came on air, actually I really thoroughly enjoyed yourself and Jack last week, so hopefully we can have a similar sort of vibe going this week.
Thank you very much, Becky. Yeah, it was a really enjoyable week last time out. Of course, you made an appearance for round 1, and we will be having plenty more from ourselves and Richard John Neal and Jack Oliphant later on in the season as well. So looking forward to that. And speaking of the season here, how it is looking, as I say, round 1 and round 2 completed already. Assen followed by Bathurst. This evening we're at Pascani rather. Round 4, the Nurburgring GP. I'm looking forward to that one, mainly because I'm on that track myself the week later. So I'll be taking up some pointers, drivers, to hopefully not find myself put in a barrier. Followed by round 5 at Watkins, Glen in America. We cross the Atlantic for the next part of this season, followed by Interlagos. And then it's round 7 at Mugello, fabulous racing circuit, as is Interlagos. I'm actually quite sad to miss that one. Followed by Ricardo, Tormo to round out the season. So still got plenty of racing action to go in this championship. So do make sure you stay tuned in every Tuesday for more of the action that we do have for you this evening, folks. So that's what the calendar looks like this season. Let's take a look at what the championship standings do look like as well. And there's been plenty of change actually after round 2. It was a good start for the DK Power Racing squad at round 1, but unfortunately for those drivers, fortunes do change, don't they? And Bathurst, it was a DNS for Jack Smith. He wasn't actually present last week, so hopefully he's back racing with us again. Oliver Gibson as well did pick up some points, but it wasn't quite, I imagine, the evening that he wanted. Gabriel North, though, very different story for him. He took driver of the round due to his really impressive performances and consistency throughout the races. So as it stands, it's Jack Smith, Gabriel Norse, Oliver Gibson, your top 3, followed by Andy Dorman. Again, another fantastic evening for him. Then we have Kieran Haynes, Scott Bugner, Andy Carroll, Thomas Potter, Christian Gillian, and Craig Curtis, your top 10 in the championship. Let's take a look at who else we have completing our field. Then moving on, then it's Daniel Heaps, followed by Alex Forster, Paul Laramie, Sam Walton, Chris Blakey, Jack Dickinson, Kenny Press, Caden Cook, Ollie Atkins, and Rich Hayden. Rich Hayden did say that he might not be on the podium last week, and that certainly ended up being the case, unfortunately for him. Maybe things will be different here in Romania. Then in 21st, it is Catherine Potter, Lee Piercy, Robert Shepherd, apologies. Then we have Callum Ainstone and John Jones. That's the 25 cars that have started this championship, although John Jones hasn't been able to get the car out on track just yet. It's an old BMW, so maybe he's tried to, but it's just been sat overheating in the pit lane. Either way, let's hope that we do have a few more drivers with some better stories from Pascani, because Bathurst, as I say, was a very mixed bag, I think, for a few drivers. So here is the team standings. I mentioned earlier on, DK Power Racing had an interesting one at Bathurst, didn't they? They didn't take away quite as many points as he managed in the Netherlands. So they still lead the table here, but not quite as much as perhaps you would have expected. Team Carbug, that's Andy Carroll and Scott Bugner, with 190 points to their name. That's ahead of Swift Cooper, of Haynes and Atkins, followed by the Shake and Bake squad. That's just Gabriel Norse. That's a really impressive run up to P4. That's a fantastic team name, by the way. And as well as the Flying Pots. You know who they are, don't you? It's Thomas Potter and Catherine Potter with 125 points to their name, followed by Chris Blakey, Paul Laramie, Craig Curtis, Kenny Press, Andy Dorman, Christian Gillian, and then we have Lee Percy and Rich Hayden. I think we've got a couple more teams actually to talk about after this one. Oh, no, we don't. Apologies. Can you tell it's my first time leading? I'm going to be a little bit rusty. Apologies, folks. But here are the top drivers from this series so far. In fact, yeah, it's definitely not going to be the top drivers from the last round because Jack Smith wasn't there. But in terms of the standings, there it is. Jack Smith, Oliver Gibson, Kieran Haynes, and Scott Bugner. So that's a bit of a look at the championship so far, but let's see if we can have a look at that's actually a bit of a refresher for round one, of course. Let's see if we can look further on into the season and more towards what we've got planned for us this evening then. I think while we wait for those, we can look back to round one potentially. And Becky, I might need to lean on you a little bit for this one because obviously you were present for Assen. Was it a good way to kick off the season?
Oh, it's always a good way. These boys and girl do know how to get a season going. A lot of action, to be fair. It seemed to start off actually pretty steady, and then it seemed to start kicking off a bit more as people probably got a bit more comfortable with the cars, going for a few more moves. So there was a few touches here and there whilst the drivers were getting used to obviously their cars, how they're handling. But it was a good track to go to. It was pretty flat, so it's a nice way to start. Yeah, warming those tyres up, getting used to how it handles, and seeing what your car can do.
Fabulous stuff. And as we saw from that previous graphic then, the BMWs really seemed to win out in round one. They seemed to be the car of choice. What we saw was the complete opposite to that. Round two at Bathurst, which we're now looking at, it was very much a case that the Audi, with its extra stability, seemed to be the car to go for. In the straights as well, down towards the end of the Comrod straight, it seemed to really pull quite nicely. Gabriel Norse took the trophy in the BMW E36 in the end, but those Audis, the same P2 and P3, it's Dorman and Carroll, ended up doing a very fine job indeed. And as well, Gabriel Norse took driver of the round to go with that. So that's our first couple of rounds of the season. Let's look onwards then to Pascani. Here's what it does look like. It's 2.8 miles there or thereabouts. Some slight elevation change, I think it's about 10 meters or so, and that's in the run between turn 14 and turn 20. It starts to snake down. You're carrying plenty of speed as well at that part of the circuit before you stamp on the anchors and get the car slowed down. It's a fictional track. That is very much worth noting, as I said earlier on. It's aimed to be sort of like a FIA Grade 3 style circuit, so a bit of a, it is called a motor park, so I guess it's a decently sized motorsport facility, and as you'll see, it's a fine mod indeed. I think it's very well regarded by the Assetto Corsa sim racing community, so looking forward to see what our drivers can do here this evening. You've seen it statically, you've heard me talk about it. Why don't we take a look at what one of our drivers can do around this circuit then? Let's see what we make of our hot lap. Well, there we go, folks. There is a very fast lap indeed from Mr. Jack Smith, ever the wizard with these BMWs flying along, a 147.87 in the end there. You really do get to appreciate just how quick of a lap that actually looks in these cars. And I suppose I was about to say these little cars, but they sort of are these days by comparison. These are classic touring cars now. They're decades old. It even makes me feel old just thinking about it. You know, I used to own one of these years back. It was already an old car, so now, God, I dread to imagine just how old that car would be now. I can't do the maths very quickly in my head, but these are little cars. It does mean that they do provide some fantastic racing opportunities. You can go 4 wide through so many corners here. I mean, you're looking at around about 30 foot track width here at Pascani, so it should be very interesting to see what the drivers can make of this track. I think we've got a couple of minutes until we do get into the racing this evening. A reminder, folks, if you've just jumped back in to the action, as I have myself this season, bit of a change to the format. It's just 3 races across the evening, no qualifying to go. All the grids are going to be set based upon race results. So drivers should have already got their practice laps in, should have already seen what they can do on a stint, and now it's just going to be a question of battling out here at Pascani. Are you looking forward to this one, Becky? I know I certainly am.
I always look forward to the Tuesday night race nights with VRRC, and especially with all of the differences of tracks as well. You get such a variety now. It's not just you kind of do the same in, same out type of ones all the time. Rich really likes to mix it up, so it's nice to see. Again, I'm not familiar with this track, so it'd be interesting to see how the guys go racing out there tonight. And especially if you're saying you can fit four cars round a corner, that could be a little bit interesting. I'm hoping they don't take that advice too much, because we might have a bit of carnage, especially when it gets to the last race with the reverse grid, which again always spices things up. Or it's just the second one now, isn't it? Again, there's me getting things wrong. So yeah, a bit of reverse always spices things up, so that's always interesting. I also found there's a few corners that seem to sneak up on you around here. There's one, again, it's probably just my poor driving, to be quite honest. Really selling myself here. That would always creep up on me, and I could never fully make it, or I'd have to be braking miles before. Obviously, these guys are very used to doing it, so I'm sure they will make the corner. And I'll definitely be getting some pointers for when I'm next on the sim trying to go around this track. Because again, like I said, there's not a lot to go off apart from past races that have been held by VRRC, which I've definitely made the most out of looking up. So hopefully I kind of know where we are at each individual point, but we'll see about that.
I'm sure we will. And as you say, such an interesting variety of tracks as we do have a little bit of a wait now. We are on the grid ready to go. Here is that grid then. Andy Cowell and Thomas Potter line up on the front row. That's going to be followed by Craig Curtis, as I actually think that order might be slightly potentially wrong. I think we'll just go with what we can see on the timing tower, why don't we? So it's Carol Potter, Craig Curtis, Kristen Gillian, Kieran Haynes, Andy Dorman, Gabriel Norse, Alex Forster, Jack Smith and Daniel Heaps. Starting in the top 10 in this one. We should have 20 cars on the grid by the looks of things. Great to see Robert Shepherd jumping in on the action. Hasn't been able to start any rounds so far. Obviously, we do have dropped scores to take account for that, but I'm sure he'll be looking to actually get some points on the board this time around. Still got a little bit of a wait then, and it's going to be an interesting one. Typically, the BMW is the better car off the line. That rear-wheel drive layout, all the weight shifts towards the back of the car, and that car just gets off the line. That Audi, obviously, need a bit of revs in these to get them off the line because they aren't the torquiest things in the world, but all that power goes to the front wheels. I mean, the engine is pretty much planted in the grille on these old Audis, so not the most ideal in terms of getting off the line, but they've got a bit of an open run through turn 1 and turn 2 before things do start to get twisty and technical into that third corner, and I'm sure the drivers are probably much more calm and composed about this race start than I am myself, but they're looking forward to it in equal measure. So only a few seconds to go now. As I say, it's going to be Carol Potter, Curtis, Gillian and Haynes, your top 5 in the mix here. Before we get to go racing for the first time this evening and for the first time this season in Romania. Already getting red lights on the gantry. It's 4 red lights on the gantry. And we are away for the first race of this evening. I said the Audis might struggle off the line, but Craig Curtis with a fantastic start. Already Thomas Potter using that rear-wheel drive layout to his advantage and hunting down Craig Curtis. Kieran Haynes, the driver that we're focusing on at the moment, has a look around the outside of Kristen Gillian, but nowhere to go just yet. Andy Carroll, a fantastic run out at Bathurst last time around, is starting this one well as well. P3 at the moment. Andy Dorman, now the driver that we look inside the car of. Bit of door-to-door action. That's just typical touring car stuff, as overall a very clean getaway, it must be said. Could that be the commentator's curse? I certainly hope not. We run down through towards the end of sector 1 now. Turn 7, the long sweeping left-hander comes up next, as there we go, already nearly 4 cars wide here, as so many drivers, I think with a full tank of fuel on board and cold tyres, just choosing some interesting lines to navigate that long sweeping left-hander. Chris Blakey now in P10 at the moment, fighting for points here in this one, and plenty of mid-pack action as well. As Becky mentioned, reverse grid action to be had here this evening, so if the race 1 start doesn't quite go your way, plenty to make up for later on, as Andy Carroll has a look down the inside. There's some more touring car stuff and just about wins out. Commotion in the lower midfield, but the top end all getting away well, Becky.
Yeah, great start there. Maybe a little bit premature to say we're completely clean. We'll wait a little bit. There tends to be, you think you've got through the first corners and it's gone great, and then all of a sudden towards the end of the lap or the start of the next one, chaos ensues. So we'll wait and see. But yeah, Craig Curtis and Thomas Potter are quite happy with this. I don't know if we've had a little off in the background there that just saw a little bit of a puff of smoke. I don't know if that was just maybe a lock up or if there was a bit of contact. But they'll be quite happy. They've managed to pull away, with Andy Carroll obviously having a bit of a battle on his hand, trying to keep everybody behind. I think Gabriel Norse has just got ahead of him, so now Andy's kind of being clawed back into the clutches of the pack that's behind him, as Gabriel's hoping to make up off the road and catch up with the leading 2 at the moment, with Craig Curtis still leading, but Thomas right behind him.
Yeah, absolutely. Thomas Potter showed an immense amount of pace towards the end of the last couple of races, and was a real thorn in the side of plenty of drivers, and he looks to be doing exactly the same thing for Craig Curtis as well. Jack Smith is making his return to the action this evening. He's in P6 at the moment. That's some decent points to be had, just maybe not quite where he'd want to be right now, but I'm sure he will still be pleased at least to be back out in his E36 once more, getting points for the DK Power Squad. Andy Dorman is the car we've been looking at for a little while, as they're going around. Is that Jack Smith? No, it's Daniel Heaps. Jack Smith was caught up in it, but what a shame there for Daniel Heaps. He tumbles down the order. We take a look then at Andy Dorman, who's closing up on the Carroll and Haynes battle. Becky mentioned just a moment ago that Gabriel Norse was enjoying a bit of a ding-dong battle with Andy Carroll. We saw the back end of his E36 squirreling around through turn 16. In the end, it's all settled between those two, but Thomas Potter has a look at going for the race lead. In fact, he does go for the race lead with that nice inside run there, gets past the A4, and so far, I must say, I think it seems to be a very interesting battling developed between the E36 and the A4s. It all seems to be pretty even. There's no denying that the BMW has some really strong cornering performance here, but the A4 just reeling them back in as Thomas Potter. Now, we look over the shoulder for Thomas Potter here. We can see that 4-ringed Audi, or sorry, it's not an Audi, I think it's something else, but we all know what it is, don't we? It starts to close down on Thomas Potter, who has certainly not got this lead comfortably.
I think it was mentioned in the first round by Jack. It's the Audi, fake Audi, whichever you want to call it. It's got 2 miles more per hour of speed, so make the most out of using that as best as the Audi drivers can do, battling against these Beamers, especially because of the grunt force that they've got coming out of corners, and obviously especially at the start, which is where they seem to make a lot of their headway, as we've got Paul Laramie trying to get round Rich. He's holding him off at the moment, even though I think he did go a little bit off-road when we kind of joined this battle. He seemed to be a little bit offline, just a touch, but seems to be back on track, and keeping everybody behind at the moment. Jack Smith is up ahead, but quite a far distance up ahead on the road. So I'm sure Rich will be trying to keep sight of him and trying to pull himself towards him. But yeah, he's probably got a lot to take in at the moment with the queue of cars behind him. As that's Andy Carroll just gone off, isn't it? So don't know what's happened there, because he seemed to be sitting quite pretty. So that's bonus for Jack. He's making his way up. I think last time we checked in with Jack, he was about P6, so he's got a couple of positions since we've checked back in with him. But now, obviously, the battle now ensues between Jack and Chris, and I'm sure Chris will be attacking him in the next few corners, with him being so close behind as well.
Yeah, this is a great return to form for Jack Smith, isn't it? He's back on the scene and ready to fight for those podiums. He's got a bit of work to do, as you say, to hunt them down, but these gaps are beginning to build up because, as is always the way with racing, you're going to start going side by side, elbow to elbow. You might cost yourself just a little bit of time, and that's what potentially Hayden and Laramie have done. As Chris Blake, you can already see potentially just a little bit of understeer creeping in. I don't think it's going to be quite so bad just yet. We're only 6 minutes into the race. Maybe later on we can see just what the tyres are going to be shaping up to be towards the end of the race. But Rich Hayden, I think, also going to be quite pleased with his return to form, because he was saying, you know what, Bathurst, not my round, not my race, and I'm sure he won't mind me saying this, didn't really look to be honest. We didn't really see too much of him in the top 10 outside of any incidents happening in front of him. This is a much better run out for him, as Chris Blakey is very much keeping Jack Smith occupied. These two could be working together quite nicely now, as I'm sure you remember from your start in racing, Becky, in the world of karting. Working together is something you'll see two drivers indicating that they want to do. They'll say, let's forget about our battling duo for now. Let's try and close up on the cars up in front, and then we can have our battle potentially for a podium. As we look further back down to Kenny Press, who's putting pressure on Paul Laramie. Alex Forster is just behind, though, so can't afford to go for any too much of a brash move, really, as these fight in the lower midfield here for the top 10 positions. There is Rich Hayden now fancying his chances on finding a way past Andy Carroll, while we look at Kenny Press, who goes down the inside of Paul Laramie. We go pretty much side by side. It's an Audi versus Audi battle, and that time Paul Laramie's does win out. We've got to watch out for Daniel Heaps, as you mentioned, Becky. Those BMWs are fantastic out of the corner exit, and I think we're seeing that now, as we now have, is that a quintet? I think that's a septet, isn't it? 7 cars all heading down in one big formation.
Yeah, great close racing there. No major offs or shoves off the track. So that's always good to see, some good car control. Jumping back to your point being made about obviously drivers working together. Unfortunately, Jack's not got his teammate of Ollie Gibson tonight. He seems to be absent from this evening's racing. And you always think, yeah, surely they're thinking about all these, as we've got a bit of a argy-bargy going on between this nice little group that's forming. So just seeing who's going to come out on top. As I think actually it's meant that Daniel Heaps has jumped, and so is Andy Carroll up the road and kind of out of kind of harm's way. Daniel Heaps just ahead. Andy Carroll, yeah, he's managed to clear everybody, so he's been quite happy. So yeah, that links nicely to the point I was trying to make, as Rich has gone a little bit off-roading again. The more you battle, the more time you're going to lose. So surely at a point you've got to think this is harming both of us. This is hemorrhaging our time. Let's work together. Let's push forward. Try to get the lead in pair. And then we can get back to kind of arguing over positions afterwards. Whether that's how it always plays out, I suppose it depends on each driver. If it was me, I'd probably be quite selfish and be like, no, right, this is my race, I'm off. I suppose it depends. If I know there's somebody going to lead the way and kind of, clear the path ahead of me, make a nice, easy racing line for me, I'll probably sit behind and follow and sit there quite comfortably, not having to think too much about anything, just follow until I can pounce and kind of pick up any sort of places that probably I wouldn't have got without the help of somebody leading the way ahead of me.
This is a very good point you make, Becky, about Oliver Gibson not being present this evening for the DK Power squad. Round 2 so far is obviously it's his drop, because there's only 2 rounds done so far. One of them is going to be a drop on paper as it stands, as we see Carroll versus Heaps here. Great battle going on. Heaps wins out and takes P6, as you can see that BMW so poised on the run around the corners, but Carroll's jumping that Audi up onto the curbs. That's typical touring car stuff. If you don't see these on 2 wheels, they aren't properly racing, really, as we're near enough half race distance. Gibson not being here this evening so far might not be quite so bad for his championship. Dorman and Haynes, at least in race 1, are not quite where they'd want to be. I mean, Andy Dorman's currently in last on the road, a lap down already, so he's pretty much forgetting about race 1 that this evening is going to try and make amends for it later on in the further 40 minutes we've got after this race is concluded. So Gibson might just be given a lifeline, at least in race 1 so far. 10 minutes left on the clock, and we go on board with Gabriel Norse. Now, Gabriel was a fine driver at Bathurst, it must be said. Looked pretty relentless and went for some fantastic moves. Turn 4 up towards the mountain section is not a traditional overtaking spot, or was it make that turn 5, apologies, or any overtaking spot at Bathurst really, not one that you'd want to go for. I think me and Jack were both kind of wincing at the screen in our heads going, he's not going to go for this one, this is going to end really badly, this is going to end really badly, and then he pulls it off, showing why he's racing and we're talking about it, or at least I'm talking about it. Becky, you've had much more success in racing than myself, and well, I think we're seeing what is going to be a fine racing driver in the VRRC for seasons to come. I think he's really enjoying these cars. He actually seemed pretty kind of glum about heading out to Bathurst. Oh, I'm not really a fan of this track, you know, I'm not going to do all that well, and and then he ends up taking race wins and driver of the round. So I'll be really interested, Becky, to see what he thinks of the virtual racing here at Pascani.
Yeah, he was very cool and collected, wasn't he, in his interviews, just like, yeah, this is a normal thing for a Tuesday night, just, you know, go out and win a race and, you know, put in performances like he does. So it's always, a lot of them are very cool and collected, and I think that helps with being a race car driver. Obviously, keeping your cool in the car is probably key. But yeah, the fact that there's not even any sort of like hint or sort of celebration afterwards, it's like, oh yeah, it is what it is. But I like that kind of that confidence, that silent confidence about them. So, but yeah, Thomas is having a nice little drive up ahead. Probably not seeing anybody for a little while, so just kind of, and again, he's probably not just sitting back and chilling whilst he's driving about. He's going to be pushing. I've made the comment before with like Jack Smith, he always comes on in his interviews and says he pushes every single lap, and it will be the same for Thomas. Even though he's got a clear road, he can't really see anybody behind him that close. He's got over 4.5 seconds gap. You can't get too comfortable with that, because all it takes is, again, a little bit of a mistake, going too wide in a corner. You're going to lose that time, and then all of a sudden everybody's going to be creeping up again. And especially with how the drivers behind are pushing, all it takes is them to keep putting in their fastest laps. You kind of slack it off a little bit, and they're there all of a sudden in your rear view mirror, putting the pressure on, making you make more mistakes, and then you're being caught. So yeah, Thomas will keep pushing. And probably wanted to set fastest lap. I think he's got the fastest lap at the moment anyway. So yeah, he'll keep putting them in, and probably want to end with that as well, because I'm sure we get additional points for that fastest lap as well. So every point helps. So.
It certainly does, Becky. I'm just watching this fantastic battle between Craig Curtis and Gabriel Norse here. Gabriel, just as say he was doing at Bathurst, going for those inside moves late on the brakes and having the confidence that it'll get the car slowed down and there's no still clean. And he was side by side with Craig Curtis, the typical BMW driver stuff, on the high beams, flashing it at the Audi in front of him. Don't worry, I can say that, folks, because I made the financial mistake of getting one myself. And he heads on to the next lap now. Jack Smith does actually take away that fastest lap from Thomas Potter last time around. That's really impressive stuff. I think Jack Smith being spurred on by seeing the two cars in front of him, battling it out, going side by side, costing themselves a bit of time. Jack Smith smelling a chance at a podium here, smelling an opportunity to get back on the podium this season. As Craig Curtis and Gabriel Norse are doing a fantastic job, but I think Jack Smith is going to try and rain on their parade a little bit. You mentioned Thomas Potter, Becky, just what a fine job he's doing, and he's probably, as you say, is pushing along this circuit in a way that I simply wouldn't be able to do. As there we go, I think that's a car that's struggling to slow down slightly, maybe, Jack. Bit of a glance across the glass. Either way, he collects it quite nicely and gets closer still to the back end of Norse and Curtis just in front. But Thomas Potter, you say he might be pushing on a little bit, but he did let slip in an interview that he's so kind of cool, calm and collected, to steal a phrase from Jack Oliphant there, sorry Jack, that he was watching YouTube during some of his fast runs in preparation for Bathurst with just one of his screens on his rig, so who knows, maybe he's keeping himself entertained 6 seconds ahead of the field by doing the same. I'm sure he's not, I'm sure he's much more sensible than that, but a really impressive run for the young driver, going for those fastest laps as he has done so well this race so far. We haven't actually got that long of this race left already, Becky. It's absolutely flown by as we take a look once again at Jack Smith. This battling duo becomes a battling trio. I always love these kinds of battles as Norse loses the back end of the BMW there, does collect it, but certainly I think might be struggling for rear end grip. This is something, again, we saw later on towards the end of Bathurst. Gabriel Norse just exercising the rear axle of that E36 as much as he dares, and the rear tyres wanting to give up Potter takes back the fastest lap of the race as the three fighting out for P2 maybe start to cost themselves a bit of time. There's still battles going on plenty elsewhere in the pack as Kenny Press versus Rich Hayden there. I think that's just a bit of a racing instance. Sometimes you don't quite expect your opponent to be down the inside. Kenny Press loses some time. Hayden continues on. We focus on Forster now, who's trying to fight it out for P7.
Yeah, some good battles going on. It always flies by, especially when we're having to cut back and forth from different groups battling away. There's so much action going on, and you'll cut back to these, and you'll go back, and then the order up front would have changed, and it's all systems go everywhere pretty much, which is great to see, and it's good to see close racing amongst even again all the drivers, but amongst the cars as well. Obviously the team works hard to get the cars that suited to each other, so there's no clear advantage on them, so they race fairly, they race evenly. So it's more again about how the car handles and how we've got, that was Alex Forster going into the side of it was Ken, was it? No, it was Andy Carroll, wasn't it?
Carroll it was, and it was a bit of a back-end glance on that A4. Luckily for Carroll's sake, didn't upset his car too much, so what a shame there that battle comes to a bit of a premature end as we now focus as it develops into a battle between Hayden and Carroll. Hayden, unfortunately, I was about to say, almost loses it on the back end on the braking there, but seems to collect it quite nicely, Becky, and continues on in P7.
Yeah, Rich will be quite happy with the fact he's picked up a couple of places there, which to get through and not get caught up in any sort of carnage either, as we cut back to the kind of P3 or P2 down to 4 with Curtis, Norse and Smith still trying to get past Norse. It's great to see these two battling. Obviously Jack's been part of the kind of grid for quite a while, and Norse is a fairly newcomer. I believe he came in the Formula Championship, so it's good to see again he's back, returned to this one, but also battling kind of one of the top drivers of VRRC and putting kind of the money where the mouth is. So it's good to see he's not rolling over and letting him pass, and still keeping Craig in touch as well. So it's not like they've dropped off and they're battling that much that they've lost all that momentum and speed that Craig has managed to get up off the road. So some good fights going on, but I bet Jack's just like, why can't I get past? Why have I not made the move yet? But with it being so close, again, we've got just under 3 minutes to go. Maybe don't do anything too drastic yet. Wait until the last minute. Get the move made when you don't have the other drivers don't have as much time to retaliate, so you can secure that position and get on the podium.
Yeah, you make a very good point, Becky, as well. That these drivers could even be potentially a little bit of tie saving. As you say, they might be waiting for that final opportunity in the race, just have that extra bit of grip, just have the extra shot, do or die kind of attitude almost, as many racing drivers do have. 2 minutes left to go then. Curtis and Norse, we've seen again, these seem to be pretty much on the edge in terms of what these cars are now capable of later on in this race. I'll be really curious after we take a very short break to see what these drivers do make of the cars after the first race, to see, you know, what's their opinions on this track. It's a new one for myself, as I say. So I'll be really intrigued to see what they think after 20 minutes worth of running. The back end sliding around for Jack Smith there. He seems very familiar with how to wrestle an old BMW around a circuit. Thomas Potter, meanwhile, sets new fastest lap of the race into the 147s. 147.1 in fact for Thomas Potter. That's really impressive stuff. That actually ever so slightly beats our hot lap that we showed you earlier on in the broadcast, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm not too surprised by that. I remember looking back to, it was the Leon Cupra Cup a couple of years back now, and drivers are quite honest about the fact that they'll provide us with a hot lap, which is very courteous of them, but they'll never put their fastest lap. They don't want to give all the game away before qualifying, so it's always great to see just what the drivers can actually do, even if it is in race trim. And before we bring an end to this race, it is worth a very quick shout out. Thank you all for tuning into the broadcast this evening. Why don't you drop in the comments, you know, who you're supporting, what you prefer, BMW or Audi? That's always a contentious one. And what do you make of the track so far? Let's see what you guys think of what you got in front of you. Less than 60 seconds to go on the clock, and there's still plenty of action, Becky, as we we see Norse versus Smith versus Curtis. Might just be changing in terms of dynamic here, as Norse has a nose up alongside the Audi of Curtis. The back end kicks out that front wheel drive car, easy to collect though, and now it's going to be side by side versus Smith and Norse, as it's going to be the pink, white and blue liveried BMW that makes its way up into P3 as we bring an ever closer end to this race. Now down in the inside on the brakes though goes Gabriel. He gets the nose up the inside but loses the back end and ends up forfeiting the fight for the podium. It's now going to be Curtis P2, Jack Smith P3.
Yeah, very very nice save there by Craig not to completely spin off. Then there was a bit of touch and a few touches there. So again, lucky that Gabriel didn't go fully off track there after I think making a bit of contact with Jack's rear quarter. So good to see them all keep on the track. Fortunately, obviously Gabriel's lost a position now, so that means Jack is currently on the podium position, which again he'll be happy with. Another good sort of points outing for him, especially when he's not got his teammate bringing in points as well. So again, he'll probably want to try to get Craig right at the final few corners that we've got left of this track, as the time has run down now.
It has indeed, Becky, and that means in a very short few moments we will be saying hello to our drivers and get their thoughts on this track, as Thomas Potter is navigating his way around this Pascani motor park for one last time here in race one. We can still see plenty of action going on, though, between Curtis and Jack Smith, as Jack Smith has a pretty quick run around the outside there, has a look at maybe getting his BMW down the inside for the switchback corner that comes up after that. Can't do anything from there, so there's still just a tenth separating the two, as the BMW does take a tighter line. Jack Smith has a look at going later on the brakes. Nothing he can do, slight bit of contact between the two. It just goes to show that we're in for a real treat this evening if the racing is going on right until the very end in race one here, as we see Curtis does still lead this battling duo. Norse is not out of the count just yet. It's a few cars down, but it would take a disaster going on in front of him in order for him to still be on the podium. But we have seen crazier things. Let's jump on board, though, with Thomas Potter, a driver who, unfortunately, we haven't talked about too much in race one because he's just done such an impressive job. A real one-man band in terms of race one dominance here as he navigates the final corner, weaves in celebration, a big weave in celebration, and takes race one victory. Congratulations, Thomas Potter. What a drive there as Craig Curtis defends B2. I think this could go down to the wire. Another photo finish here in the VRRC. The BMW gets a great run out of the final corner, but Craig Curtis just about wins out with that Audi straight line speed. It's Craig Curtis P2, Jack Smith P3, Gabriel Norse brings it home in fourth, followed by Chris Blakey, Daniel Heaps, and then I think there's still plenty of change going on down for P7. There is indeed. Where is Kenny Press? There is Kenny Press now. He heads around that final corner. A bit of a gap, as they say, down to P7, while Andy Carroll and Alex Force are still battling it out just behind. There we go then. Kenny Press brings it home in P7 in the end, tries to break the toe, doesn't need to worry too much, followed by Carroll, Forster and Ollie Atkins. That's your top 10 in this one. What a way to kick off an evening's worth of racing here at Pascani. Well, I didn't know this track all that well. I didn't know what to expect, Becky, but I do think we're in for a real treat.
Yeah, looking forward to the next couple of races. Now all the drivers have their eye in and know the track a little bit more. Be good to see what's to come.
It will do. It will be indeed, Becky. Thank you very much. So I think what we're going to do now, folks, is take a quick look at some of the other VRRC action that you can expect from from our series over the next coming seasons, and looking back to some past seasons as well. We're going to take a quick break as we take a look at some Formula Ford action. Well, there we go then, folks. Looks like some brilliant Formula Ford action. Do make sure you look back on the VOD if you want to grab some more of the details there. Saw plenty of wet racing action there. Typical British stuff, really, isn't it? But looking back at race 1, then it's time to hear from some of our drivers, I think, after what was a really good way to kick off the evening. So, looking at our driver in P3 then, let's see. Mr. Jack Smith, how are you doing, Jack? Great to see you back.
Yeah, cheers, mate. No, it was a quality race, that. Really enjoyed it. A bit of a scruffy start. Lost a bit of time at the start there, but we made it back through. Had a nice little battle with Gabe and Craig right at the end there. And yeah, it was some proper racing. Really, really nice to see, and hard but fair, I think it was at the end of the day. So yeah, no, it's proper. Always great racing with these guys. So yeah, really happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's typical touring style stuff. You're going to hear me say typical touring car stuff so much throughout this season, I think, because that's just what you expect from these cars, isn't it? It's great that you can just pretty much bash each other's doors and fight until the very end. I mean, it's one of those battles, I think, what we saw at the end there between yourself and Curtis and Norse, that we didn't really want the race to end with that. Obviously, you had a really strong round out at round 1. We unfortunately didn't see you for Bathurst, but have you got some high hopes for this season?
Yeah, well, yeah, of course, trying to add another one to my tally, but yeah, we'll obviously see what we can do. Using one of my dropped rounds already is not ideal, but yeah, I just got to keep your head down, push on through. Hopefully, we can have a nice couple of rounds for the rest of the season, and yeah, I mean, if the races go like that every round, I won't be unhappy either way. So yeah, no, it's great. Just looking forward to it, and get on with the next 2 races, and yeah, the rest of the tracks are really great for the rest of the season. So looking forward to them as well.
They do indeed. What do you make of Pascani then? Is it a track that you've got much experience at? Are you quite pleased that we're running here this evening? Are you enjoying it?
I'll be honest, I've never really driven this before this round, so yeah, it's new to me, but it's got a weird kind of flow to it. Like when you begin practicing, you sort of start cursing at it, thinking this is a silly track. Like, why are we racing here? And then you get slightly faster, and you're like, okay, I get it now. I get it. And yeah, now we're at that point where we're finding tenths of a second between each other, and it is a proper track, and the racing's really, really good as well. I didn't expect that at all. So yeah, it's a mega track. I'm really happy Rich chosen it, to be honest. So yeah, definitely coming back here again.
Yeah, looking forward to see what else we make from it as well. Was just one last quick one. I am aware that we do need to move on. BMW, was it your immediate choice for this season?
Yeah, definitely. I've driven an E36 in real life, so as soon as I saw it, it was one of the options. I was straight in. So yeah, no, it's a proper car. I prefer rear-wheel drive to front as well. Just the way the rear-wheel drive handles, and how we get some power and stuff. It's just more suited to how I drive. Although the Audi does sound better, I have to admit, but trade-offs and all that. So yeah, no, definitely had to go for the E36 in the end.
Yeah, no, I'm agree with that. A bit of a fan. I think we actually have a mutual friend, Jack, and we also, he has a 330. I've got a 330. Used to have an E36, and there's something about them, even though they often don't work. But hopefully yours continues to work for the rest of this evening, and hopefully speak to you again this evening, Jack. Enjoy the rest of your time this evening.
Cheers, mate.
So we heard from P3. Let's move on to P2 then. Let's see who we've got coming up. Craig Curtis, good to see you once more. Good to see another Audi on the podium. What do you make of that race then?
Oh, Reeve, I've never sweated as much before in a sim race, genuinely. I was lucky to start on reverse grid pole because of the championship order, and I thought the Beamers were going to get me off the line. I think Tom slotted in behind me by turn 3, so I thought, right, if I can hold him off for a few laps, which I did, and then he got by. I just saw these Beamers bearing down on me, Gabe and then Jack, and so I thought if I can just play the defensive game now rather than aim for lap time or anything like that. So it's this Audi front wheel drive is just so understeery, just washing every corner. You just got to wait before you hit the throttle. So yeah, it's a fun battle. So hopefully race 2 will be just as good.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting that you mentioned that, just how differently you have to approach driving. I think I was just chatting to Jack then, I'd always pick a BMW personally, probably because I'm a bit of a useless driver and I don't have the patience really, and don't have the finesse involved in, waiting to put the power down there. Is this a car that you've enjoyed so far this season?
Well, I'm always, whenever there's a touring cars, I go for front wheel drive. It's just, you can just be more consistent without the risk of losing the rear a lot. I mean, you know, these BMW guys, Jack, etc., they're seasoned pros, as it were. But yeah, I just always enjoy the front wheel drive. But for some reason, these older Audis, they're just a little bit more understeery, let's say. So you've got to be very patient on throttle and just be a little bit slower in the corners. You know, the rotation's just not there compared to the Beamers. So, but yeah, you know, this track is very good to race on. We've raced here before in the World Touring cars, and I did reasonably well. So yeah, just glad to be back here.
Yeah, it seems to be a really good time out. You mentioned, you say the old stuff does seem to like an unsteer. A friend of mine used to own an old Audi of this generation, and I distinctly remember, I can't remember, we were doing some very basic service item on it, and we had to put the front end in the service position because the engine is just so far forward in the car that in order to do anything on it, the whole front end of the car has to come off. So maybe, I think they've learned their lesson now. They might be a bit heavy these days, but they seem to keep up with the other stuff on the road at least. So a bit about Pascani then, Craig. What do you make of this fictional circuit so far?
Oh, I love it. Like I said, we raced on here on World Touring cars. I think I was in the Hyundai the last time, and
yes,
I won 2 races that evening actually. So yeah, I think my form was good. But obviously, different cars, you know, different handling styles and different driving styles. It's just finding that consistency. During the practice runs, you know, I was at least a second off Tom's and Jack's time. So, you know, I think me and maybe Andy Dorman were the quickest Audis here, just over a second off. So yeah, it's a lot to make up. But like I said, if you can get the position and then just defend, I think that's a good tactic for race 2. So if I make a good start, then, you know, avoid the carnage on lap 1, then we'll see where we are.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm wishing you all the best for some further successful race starts for this evening, Craig. Hopefully we'll get a chance to chat to you again later on.
Fingers crossed. Thanks, Reeve. Appreciate it.
So we've heard from P2, and it's time to chat to the main man. I'll try that again. Try to chat from the main man from Race 1, Thomas Potter. Once again, Thomas, we chat to you after you've had what seems to be a pretty comfortable lead out in front.
Yeah, exactly. I can't really be complaining much of that. I was like, my dad came in 10 seconds before the race, said, Tom, you've got pace. If you're P1 by the end of lap 1, I will get murdered. So I was like, all right, swept behind, take it safe, and then waiting for a mistake from Craig, got through and just drove off from there.
I like the instilling of confidence there. Started well with the you've got pace, which you clearly do have, followed by the imminent threat of danger, which luckily I think you seem to evade, didn't you? You seem to have a really comfortable run out from there. Was it just kind of like a rhythm you just sort of set into and you don't really think about it when you got that turn of pace?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I could definitely have got more pace in practice. I'm the only one to get into the 46s, so I was hoping to be able to get in there. I was hoping to try push for a 46.7, but instead I was probably pushing 98%, not 100. But that's all I can do, and at least I kept it on track and managed to come out with a win. So at the end of the day, it's not always about lap times; it's about consistency.
No, you say that, you still were taking away some really impressive lap times. We were discussing on broadcast, Becky and I, that you were managing to beat what we saw in the hot lap before we started the racing action this evening, just comfortably running towards the end of your race stint. So that's really impressive stuff. Is Pascani a track that you got happy memories of? You got much experience? Are you enjoying your time so far with it?
Well, I can't fully remember. I think everyone in VRRC, well, whoever did it, would race it once. I don't remember if it was in the modern touring cars or if it was in the minis, but I'm pretty sure we did definitely race it once, and I pretty enjoyed it in whatever it was there. I just can't picture the car. I believe it was in minis. My dad's adamant it was, at least, so dads are always right half the time. But yeah, it's like it pretty much, although I'm not really enjoying the BMW out the hairpin, as you want to be so patient.
That rear-wheel drive nature can be very unforgiving. You wouldn't think so, because these touring cars aren't the most powerful in the world, but one thing they are is very, very light. I mean, there's modern BMW road cars that are rear-wheel drive that have, you know, boatloads more power and torque than these, but obviously these are a bit more classical. They hark back to an old era. I remember these being quite new, Thomas, and I think you're fortunate enough to not have that memory. I used to own one of these when it was still, like, not classic, and it was very broken. Yours came home in much nicer condition because you were so consistent this evening. What's your kind of mindset heading into the next couple of the races then? Are you hoping to just scythe through that field and aim for a couple more race wins?
Well, the race wins would definitely be the goal. Starting from 10th, I mean, Jack came from a similar place, managed to get him a podium, so I mean, I guess it would be a dream if I could one-up that and go get a, well, he came P3, maybe a P2, but it's going to be very hard as everyone's got some strong pace, and Daniel Heaps, I believe, is probably going to be the likely to win this one unless he does what he did in practice a lot when racing me and end up in a barrier. But I doubt that'll happen, so I reckon he's going to be the one winning this one, so it'll just be about how close I can get. But yeah, podiums are definitely on my cards, and it's definitely what I'm aiming for.
Yeah, I think you should be aiming at least for that. Some really impressive pace so far. You've actually got some support showing in the broadcast. Your sister is congratulating you on your results, as well as Daniel Heap saying fair play there. That was a really strong race, and I think we all echo those feelings. Thomas, best of luck for the rest of your racing this evening. I think we're going to take a look at the grid once more before we get to go racing once again. Congratulations, Thomas.
Can I just do a quick one? Huge thank you to all my partners on my car. And thank you so much to Silvery Fleet this week, last weekend, for inviting me down to the British truck race, and I've thoroughly enjoyed that. And if anyone likes a fuel card, get in touch.
I'd certainly like a fuel card. So big thank you to all of Thomas's partners there, and all the best again for the evening, Thomas.
Thank you.
So, we've heard from some of our drivers then. Really interesting to get their thoughts. I think everyone all round so far, Becky, seems to be really enjoying Pascani Motor Park.
Yeah, seems to be a firm favourite at the moment, which is good. Even with it not being necessarily that well known amongst the drivers, so it's good to hear that even Jack wasn't too familiar with the track. So yeah, it's good to see. Be interesting to see if we can maybe just pop a message into the drivers chat to see obviously if it's the feeling is mutual all the way down the grid. But it looked like a lot of fun, a lot of good overtakes being made and just good moves, and again trying to catch drifts and stuff. It's always looks impressive, and I'm sure it always is quite a lot of fun to actually be able to catch that moment as well. And good to hear that Craig as well was like, actually, I've never sweated as much before. That's always a fun thing to look forward to as we do these race evenings into the summer nights. And yeah, you've got to contend with overheating as well, even at your sim race setup compared to actually being in a car as well. I suppose it makes it more realistic as well, doesn't it? Just need to get a blower on at the same time. Really get in the feel.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, as you say, the summer months are going to provide us with plenty of challenges, and you mentioned some sim rigs can indeed, feature things like fan blowers or the new moving seats that are available. I think that's through is it through Moser? I can't remember who. Either way, I think those drivers aren't maybe focusing on their sim rigs all that much right now, other than making sure that their clutch pedal is working, their throttle pedal is working, and maybe their brake as well as we run into turn 3. Because there's only a few seconds now before the reverse grid action starts. Here we go. The lights are illuminating. We have 4 red lights on the gantry, and we are go for race 2. It's a good start there. The Audi of Andy Carroll does bog down ever so slightly off the line, but Ollie Atkins, Alex Forster are leading the charge into the first couple of corners. 2 left-handers, followed immediately by a bit of a braking zone to the right. Here we go. Here is Gabriel Norse, already poised for a podium here, potentially with a great run down the right-hander there. As you can see, Teapot with a fantastic run in race 1, unfortunately, is a neutralised threat here in race 2. He tumbles round into the gravel, and it is effectively race over from the start, as it is as well for Daniel Heaps. Showing support for Teapot, of course, in the broadcast, now finds himself tumbling down the order, down the back straight. What a shame for Daniel Heaps, who otherwise had a really nice race in race 1 as well. Chris Blakey is the driver that we are focusing on now, has a look down the inside on Kenny Press, goes near enough side by side, has that BMW advantage of getting out the corners quite nicely in the Demon Tweaks liveried car, but isn't going to be able to make a move just yet. I do actually need to visit Demon Tweaks shortly, because my car needs an alignment before I get out to the Nurburgring in a few weeks' time. I really need to get that sorted. I haven't even bothered phoning them yet. So if anyone from Demon Tweaks is watching, expect a purple 330 imminently. Desperate need of an alignment. Either way, focusing on much more important stuff. Daniel Heaps has a look around the outside of Jack Smith there. Jack Smith, who was one for having a look at the outside move in race 1. is looking pretty settled here, and I think Smith knows that he's got a decent amount of confidence behind him as he is really enjoying these battles. He was saying he doesn't actually mind all that much if he isn't in the running for another championship, as even though he definitely is. All he's focused on is enjoying the races that he's partaking in, and I think he very much is doing so. A fellow BMW enthusiast, quite clearly. What a man of taste, I must say. Although again, he drives them far better than I do. Alex Forster, though, has had a great start to this race. Runs in P3 at the moment. Looks like Jack Dickerson's in the pits, unfortunately, so race 2 not starting the way that he would have wanted, but Forster pushes on quite nicely from P1 from a lead position start here, Becky. It can be quite difficult sometimes in the reverse grids to start knowing that you've got some very fast cars behind you, but so far Forster and Atkins have done a great job of that, haven't they?
Yes, they seem to have stayed out of quite a lot of carnage. I think as we came off the onboard of Chris Blakey, we did see a car on its roof. I don't know if that was Andy Dorman.
Good spot.
Yeah. Luckily, I've got a stream going in the background as well, so I saw it happen, and then I've looked over and seen. So I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's Andy Dorman that was unfortunately on his roof. I think Rich Hayden was caught up in it as well. Just kind of saw a lot of colours, so I was trying to work out which colours associated with which driver. So yeah, tales of two halves here. We had quite a calm sort of race one. Not too much kind of crashes and then some quite big ones already in the kind of first couple of laps of this one. I don't even think we've even completed 2 laps. So there you go. That's what a reverse grid does for you, which I personally quite enjoy. Again, not always the kind of crashes and drivers obviously being taken out of action and stuff like that, but it does. It mixes things up. It spices things up. You're not always racing against the same people that you're used to. You've probably learned kind of how they drive, how they tackle a corner, how they're going to come and attack you. So actually throw somebody in there that you might not normally race against, and it all gets a bit like, oh, well, I don't actually know what this person's going to do in this corner, or how they're going to defend, or how they're going to attack. So it keeps everybody on their toes. And unfortunately, sometimes you can't always dodge that as much as, yeah, it's all about how well you drive. Sometimes you do have to avoid some sort of crashes or, yeah, collisions going on in front of you. That's unfortunately sometimes part of racing as well, just to keep clean in all sort of manners. But yeah, Ollie Atkins and Alex Forster will be really happy with this. Both upper front, so it's played well for them, and yeah, managed to stay clear of any sort of major carnage. And what was actually interesting at the start of the race, we had a group of about 4 Audis at the start on the top 4 positions. So even though they probably might not have the best starts, they managed to keep the Beamers slightly at bay for a bit, just to be able to get away. And we've got 2 of them still leading, so that was an interesting dynamic that played out. That I noticed that the Beamers had a few more to try to get round. So that's maybe the way to do it in future. Just make sure we've got Audis at the front, and then we can keep the BMWs behind.
I like your thinking there. As you say, though, it does add a very interesting strategic element. I'll try that. I'll use words. I think words are useful when commentating. I'll use them. There we go. Yeah, Rich Hayden's currently pushing against Christian Gillian, who had a great run out at Bathurst, particularly towards the start of the evening. But as you say, Becky, really interesting strategic element, there we go, that is brought to us by these reverse grid races and these 20-minute format. You usually might think, oh, it's 20 minutes, it's not quite a sprint, so you're not just going to go, full quality pace, and it's not quite an endurance stint of, let's say, 45 to an hour. It's 20 minutes, it's in the middle of somewhere. What can you do strategy-wise? Well, when you've got 3 of those races and there's reverse grid action in the mix, there's plenty to think about as a driver, particularly when you do have 2 differing cars as well. Now, we've both touched on it so far this evening, Becky. It is really interesting to see how we've been able in the VRRC to pick 2 so similar cars, despite them being on completely different platforms, completely different manufacturers from, I believe, no, they would have raced against each other, not like, say, the old Alphas in the same championship that were a little bit earlier. But to pick, cars that are front-wheel drive versus rear-wheel drive, yet they do still match each other, as Lee Pearcey seems to have come to a very sudden stop on the start-finish straight there. It is interesting to see that we've done such a good job of matching these cars. I know we tried the likes of the Lagunas, the Accords, but in the end we found out that these 2 were the closest rivals, as Rich does eventually get past Christian Gillian, but isn't going to be settled in that so far, I don't suspect, because Gillian has a great run through the inside of the right-hander. That converts to the outside of the left, and then once again it switched back here at this track for another right-hander. Hayden is controlling things quite nicely in this single file formation. The quartet of E36s. Just behind is going to be Thomas Potter, just behind Caden Cook there. So Teapot not completely out of this one, just nowhere near, I'm sure, where he would want to be after the successes of race 1. We have a look at the end, top end action for P3, as that is going to be Alex Forster in the gravel, unfortunately, leading the charge heading into the right-hander there. Finds himself in the gravel and down in P3, make that P4, as Jack Smith is going to be a driver to capitalise upon the misfortunes of others there to jump up into the podium scoring position with some pressure, though. Gabriel Norse is in P2, followed by Ollie Atkins, who's controlled things well from lap 1. 7 minutes already through this race, Becky. Time absolutely flies when touring cars are flying by and we're having fun.
Yeah, it absolutely does. I did think Forster might have been going for a big kind of bold drift round that corner then, just to kind of make a point. But lucky that he lost a position there. But it did look pretty cool. As he's got, I think that was Daniel Heaps then going up the inside of him as well, but dropping back again after I think he might have cut the corner a little bit there, did Daniel. So yeah, rightfully probably just giving it back, and then it'll go for the attack again at the start of the next lap. But yeah, Jack again made up some good positions there. So again, Gabriel and Jack on podium again. And Gabriel was closing in on Ollie, who was probably quite happy, sat up front with nobody bothering him. And now all of a sudden he's got to start thinking about defending, which again, this is what the reverse grids are always good for. You might not defend as much in kind of like mid kind of pack when you're racing normally. So to be actually out front and having to deal with that pressure, it hones those skills, which is always good to see. And we've seen Norse go wide there, so Jack snuck through. So now we've got the resumption of this battle between the pair of these two. So this will be good to see how these guys go. We've got probably a full basically 11 minutes, nearly 12 minutes of these two battling out now till the end. Ollie will probably hope they keep battling so he can clear a bit of distance and just get back to his nice drive that he was having before they rudely came and interrupted him.
You make a good point there, Becky, but if we saw one thing from race 1, it was actually that Jack Smith was closing up on battling cars whilst still was in a battle, rather, while still flying along, and he's now got clear of Norse and continues on to hunt down Ollie Atkins in the lead of this race. We can see Daniel Heaps looking very eager to find a way past Alex Forster's Audi in front of him. I do think it is very interesting to see that Jack Smith and Gabriel Norse in that battle, as you say, Becky. And I said, oh, it would be great if that battle continued on. I think my wishes have been granted here halfway through race 2. They do indeed continue on, as now Smith has a look around the inside there for the final corner. Onto the start-finish straight we go, and it will be Jack Smith who starts the next lap in the lead of this race. Has made up 10 positions in this reverse grid action, of course. Started 11th and now takes charge, but Ollie Atkins is not going to let that go easily, and there's going to be a bit of side-to-side contact there. A drifting E36. Jack Smith does very well to collect the car full opposite lock, and he does collect it. It's in P3. He's lost a second or so in terms of time, has lost 2 track positions, but I think that could have been much worse, Becky. He might be slightly relieved that he's only in P3.
Yeah, and I don't think you could ever write Jack off. I know we talk about him a lot, but he is very good, very good at this. So yeah, he might have lost a second or so, but he will soon gain it back, as he's making the point now. And again, a little bit of a touch there. I don't think that was necessarily as a get back at you type of thing, but managed to get through and has brought Gabriel with him as well. So he'll probably like that little bit of buffer between him and Ollie as well. So yeah, they'll continue up the road now, as now it looks like Ollie might just be dropping off the pace a little bit, might not just be able to keep up with the 2 Beamers now.
No, yeah, as you said, I don't think that was intentional. I'm going to use my apparently favourite phrase of the season so far. Typical touring car stuff, Becky. I think we should get that printed on a T-shirt, and then the drivers can use it as an excuse. Don't take any ideas, drivers. Bad idea. Don't do it. But if you want to, why not say it? It might make you feel better if you do have any instance out on track. Here we go. We take a look at the action down in the midfield here. Lee Piercy is having a great run, as is Daniel Heaps, the driver we're focusing on, now gets ahead of Alex Forster. Here is Lee Piercy having a battle with Rich Hayden as Daniel Heaps fights for that podium scoring position. Alex Forster just behind under the pressure from Kenny Press, and that is a great shot there. Steve on the broadcast, big thank you for all your work, Steve. Thinking almost in like a hive mind there with me, just immediately jumped to Kenny Press as we head down the start finish straight. 9 minutes to go in this one, and so many cars in our top 10, our top 8 all covered In fact, our top 7 covered by very little time at all. This race is all completely up in the air for the time being, as Daniel Heaps has made up 3 positions over his position of P10 on the grid for this one, and now fancies his chances at a potential podium here as he started P7 up into P4. He now goes. And Ollie Atkins, the driver that he'll be encountering next. There we can see Smith and North just beginning to break away ever so slightly as Atkins and Heaps begin to enjoy their own battling. Now, this might be these two just, kind of relegating themselves to P3. You're thinking, what, still plenty of points to have here. Let's go for that 3rd step on the podium. This might be those thinking, Heaps going, you know what, I'm the quicker driver, I want to be fighting for that podium and that race win, but unfortunately he's not going to have the opportunity to as he tumbles down the order. A little bit of side-to-side contact. These BMWs are slightly trickier to catch than the Audis when things go awry, and there we go. I'm pleased to say I've never really had such a moment in my rear-wheel drive action so far where I have had to do a big catch like that. I believe, Becky, we were chatting before the broadcast, and I hate to bring this up, but you are well acquainted with catching a car in a big slide, aren't you? And you certainly have more experience and much better success than myself in that.
Well, again, you say experience. We'll use that term loosely there. Bearing in mind, first sort of ever real outings in a car or anything, and typical. Yeah, I don't know a lot. I'll openly say that now. Front wheel drive of a C1. What do you do when you lose it? Don't slam on the brake, Becky, but that's exactly what I did. Luckily managed to catch it and didn't end up tumbling down Paddock Hill at Brands Hatch. But that was a very sketchy moment. I had a few cars whiz past me as well, and then I just kind of corrected it, shouted sorry to obviously whoever might have watched the dash cam footage back and be like, sorry everyone, and off I went again. So yeah, you live and you learn is the saying, is it not? So I didn't do it again.
Well, that is a very good point. That's why I kind of want to bring it up, because I am really impressed that you, a C1 not known for its, utmost in handling prowess and stability, you managed to lose it, stamp on the brakes, and then collect it. That's quite impressive, Becky. So I might refer to you for all
I'll send you the video. I have got a video footage, so I'll send it over.
Steve, I've got an idea for you. Next round's hot lap. No, I'm joking. Don't worry, Becky.
Everyone will pick me to pieces.
No,
we'll leave it to
absolutely
the guys that know what they do.
I wouldn't be able to get a C1 round a lap. Never mind. Enjoy some of the racing experiences that you have. So I might refer to you in future for any car collection queries. Becky, you seem to be very good at it. Either way, a few changes elsewhere in the order. Jack Smith leads the charge. 6 minutes to go in this one. Gabriel Norse, Forster, followed by Blakey. As Blakey gets past Ollie Atkins, it doesn't look like he's under too much pressure for the time being. Instead, he might be focusing on trying to hunt down Alex Forster, although this battle of P3 does seem somewhat settled with Smith and North just breaking away from the pack. This might be our chance to hear from North for the end of race 2, Becky, as you mentioned from Bathurst, he seemed to be very calm, very blasé about the whole thing. Maybe we'll get a different Gabriel North. Either way, he's taken away some decent points, and I'm sure we'll be looking forward to his hopes in the championship, as he's done very well as the young driver.
Yeah, we would just need to raise his heart rate a little bit, get the drivers going and ganging up on him, and then we might get a bit more of a kind of like, a bit more of an intense interview. But Chris Blakely's been sitting quietly, getting on with his races and putting in some good performances. His last race, I think he ended up P5. So again, putting in some good performances, getting a good collection of points, and staying nicely out of trouble, not putting himself into too much danger, and managed to avoid obviously the off by Daniel Heaps as well. He almost got collected by him as he was trying to stop kind of midway on track. So I think he just about managed to avoid that, kind of going into the side of Heaps. So yeah, like I say, Chris has been just sitting quite nicely in his own little kind of race at the moment, but like you say, he's going up the road after Alex, hopefully, so we might see a little bit of a battle maybe right at the final bit of this race, as we're slowly, well, not slowly, quite quickly approaching the end with less than 4.5 minutes to go.
We are indeed, Becky, and still I'm curious as to what the tyres are looking like, because in my ever-professionalism, I completely forgot to ask the drivers. I could have asked them something useful, like, what the tyres shaping up to be. Instead, I had started waffling on about old BMWs with Jack Smith. So, Phil, you have permission, Becky. Next set of driver interviews, if I start going completely off-piste, just shout at me. Just please,
I'll just shout tyres. and then we know.
There we go. Exactly. I shouldn't forget if that happens. I'd be really curious to see what these drivers do think of how the cars are shaping up towards the end of the race after a couple of goes here this evening. Of course, we will have another 20-minute race to go after this one. The action is certainly not over yet. We'll get another opportunity to hear from the drivers before we have, oh dear, we have a bit of an off for Alex Forster. That's what we do have. What a shame. He's been running very nicely indeed in this race so far. Has been in the top 5 quite consistently as Jack Smith sets a new fastest lap of the race. Unfortunately for Alex Forster, things not quite going his way this time around. Just looking at how his other rounds have shaped up to be so far. Round 2 was a bit of a round to forget, really, at Bathurst. Had a great start to the series in Assen, but Bathurst, to say, only a few points to be brought home. So hopefully for his sake, race 3 goes a little bit better. He's still in P7, you know, I'm perhaps over dramatising it a little bit there. He's still in with some really decent points coming his way. There, as we go on board with Ollie Atkins. Haven't referred to it too much this evening, but in the bottom right hand corner of your screens, folks, you can see a fantastic bit of track graphics. So a big thanks to all the team behind the scenes. Since I last commentated on the VRRC, the graphics are looking even better still, and you got a really good insight there as to the into the gears that the drivers are selecting, how their throttle inputs are looking, how their brake inputs are looking. And one thing I can tell you that you are looking, as I can't delve too much into it because I'm just not that way skilled. What I can tell you is they look a lot better than mine would in a front-wheel drive car, because as I was chatting with Craig Curtis in the Race 1 post-interview, I do not have finesse when it comes to front-wheel drive cars. I just cook the front tyres as Daniel Heaps sets his tyres on fire, finding a way past Kenny Press and up into P5 there. That's a nice run around the outside for the top 5 in this one. Started P7 and picks up a few more places for his troubles with only 2 minutes to go in this race. Now, Jack Smith out in the front of things. Haven't looked at him for a little while. It's beginning to just break away ever so slightly from Gabriel Norse now. It's about 6 seconds clear. We will have a chance, if things go his way, to chat with him after this one once again. But Norse also looking pretty comfortable. I think what we're seeing here, Becky, is after the somewhat more chaotic start that you see in the reverse grid races, the drivers work their way on through the pack and just settle into a more comfortable rhythm, end up with a bit more time around them compared to, say, race 1 where it's all a bit close together after the first few laps.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think you find it in a lot of sort of class racing. If you've got obviously different skills, different powers behind car and everything you've got to take into account, it's getting past kind of maybe the people that, again, might not always run towards the front and getting around them. And again, because you're not used to driving and racing against them, you're not always sure what they're going to do. So once we get past that kind of initial stage, and we look like we're going very wide there, but actually managed nice corner there. Just always looks like you're going to end up off onto the field as these two are battling away. So obviously Daniel's on a bit of a recovering mission after his off a little bit earlier, so he's made up again his places very nicely. Obviously it will be a bit of a kind of what if for him if he hadn't have had that moment earlier. If he could have actually battled the two kind of leading drivers and given them a run for their money towards the end, especially. So yeah, that'll be interesting. As you see, Jack's obviously got a nice cushion there. And again, I've already mentioned it. Jack will say he will push every single lap. He'll want fastest lap after fastest lap, so he will keep pushing right to the end. And very rarely will make a mistake, and will just sit there quite happily now. But yeah, we'll be putting his all into it, which is always nice to hear when the drivers come into an interview. It's not a kind of, let's just sit back, relax, it's only sim racing. No, it's racing. And it's all very much, yeah.
It is indeed, Becky, and there we see Jack Smith taking the checkered flag there. We missed out on another lap by just mere seconds. It was a close one, but Jack Smith from starting 11th, a fantastic race victory, and Gabriel Norse brings it home in P2, a nice comfortable margin for himself as well, followed by Chris Blakey, who rounds out the podium in this second race of the evening. Daniel Heaps, as you mentioned, Becky, on a bit of a recovery charge after some early incidents, worked his way up to P4, followed by Ollie Atkins in P5, started at the front end in his reverse grid action, managed to cling on onto it quite nicely, did Ollie, as Kenny Press brings it home in P6, followed by Alex Forster in P7. Despite his issues earlier on, I think he can still be quite pleased with the decent haul of points there. Rich Hayden back in the top 10, back on form after Bathurst, brings it home in P8, followed by Kieran Haynes in P9. Then we have Kristen Gillian in P10. We're focusing on the battle for P17 at the moment. That is consisting of Lee Piercy fighting for it in P17, and Craig Curtis just in front there. Sam Walton brought it home in 11th, Caden Cook 12th, Catherine Potter 13th, Paul Laramie 14th, Andy Carroll in 15th. But here in 16th, it's all not settled as we head through the final couple of corners. And it's Audi versus BMW, that typical touring car battle once again. Round the final couple of corners, what can Craig Curtis do to defend from the BMW? Will he need to do anything, or will it be a simple drag race to bring an end to this race? We head down the start-finish straight, and this is a battle for P16, folks. And what a battle it is. Lee Piercy versus Mr. Curtis. In the end, Lee Piercy can't quite do enough to find a way past. But that brings an end to race 2, folks. Jack Smith, Norse and Blakey are your podium. We're going to chat to those drivers in the interviews in a few minutes, but first, we have a quick message.
Stages of the second Legends Cars race.
Well, doesn't that look great, ladies and gentlemen? Scottish Legends series there at Knock Hill. That signed me up for that. It looks like great fun. But focusing on our racing this evening, we're going to have a chat with some more drivers after another very intriguing race 2. First of all, I'm joined by Chris Blakey. Congratulations, Chris. Great to see you back on the podium. How are you doing this evening?
And gents, yeah, not too bad, not too bad. It's been it was a bit of a hectic race, that one. It was just a bit of a crazy start. I'm pretty sure I saw a car barrel roll behind me at the hairpin. I thought I could have swore that was going to hit me, but survived that, and then just tried to carry on, make it as best I could. Bit of a little mistake, had a 3/4 spin, lost a load of places, but then just thumped my way back and managed to get third, so I'm really chuffed with that.
Yeah, you absolutely should be. As you say, it was a race that I don't think you could write the ending of within the first few minutes. It was definitely one that was up in the air at quite a few points, as you mentioned, quite literally up in the air for some drivers. But luckily, you weren't one of them. You mentioned you had a small bit of a near spin there. Is that the typical rear-wheel drive nature of this car, just biting towards the end? Yeah.
Yeah, it was first few laps, so I don't know whether I hadn't got the tyres up to temp or whether just I hadn't got the pressures hadn't come up or anything. Yeah, it was just my own ham-fistedness and lead-footedness, but just they are very kind of light to spin up. They are like you're getting too much on the curves. You just got to be really gentle with them. They're not like the real car. They're not. They seem to. I'm used to driving a heavier car, so it's weird. They do spin up. They're just a bit more lively, a fair bit more lively. You just got to keep it smooth and consistent, which sometimes I struggle to do. So.
I suppose, yeah, it's nothing like a modern 3 Series, is it? You see the modern 3 Series touring car, it's the size of Jupiter, and it probably doesn't weigh all that differently to the real version of one of these, but obviously the road counterparts are quite the difference in terms of weight. I can't imagine it's anywhere near as lively as one of these old things. Are you enjoying running this platform and these world super touring cars as a whole, though?
Oh yeah, definitely. I love them. I do actually race E46 BMWs.
Nice.
So but the weight difference between the E46 and the 36 can be 200 kilograms in race prep. Yeah. It's crazy how light the 36s can be, but yeah, it's great to watch these cars go around. They sound great. They look great going around. Yeah, it was a proper era of touring cars. This one really, really did like them. So.
It is, and it was indeed. You say, I can't believe how long ago it was. Now, I remember I was saying to Thomas Potter, I remember these cars not being that old. I used to have an E36 compact and followed that by an E46, and yeah, I remember these not being that old. And now it was so many decades ago. I mean, my start off in sim racing commentary was actually with Alfa Romeo leagues, and obviously the 155 is pretty infamous and is involved in that as well. And there's just some brilliant broadcast clips from that era. I think, as you say, I think everyone is really enjoying it. Are you enjoying this track as well? Pascani seems to be a bit of a favourite with our drivers so far.
It is okay. Like I say, obviously it's not a real circuit, so unfortunately nobody's got any real world experience of it. But it is bumpy. You've really kind of got to just be careful with the bumps. And like I was saying with the BMWs, too much ham-fistedness, and you go over that bump slightly wrong, and they spin up, and you've just got to be really careful with it. Just learn the bumps. You've got to use the bumps. You've got to use the curbs to get good speed out of it, get good lap times, but just really got to be on it, careful. You can't be blasé about sending it in.
Does this kind of edgy nature of this car, and I'm bringing this up because at my own request, Becky will shout tyres at me, otherwise if I forget. Is this slightly edgy nature of this car maybe one that's starting to cause the tyres to wear out this circuit a little bit later on? Is that something the drivers are experiencing?
I didn't really notice it, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I don't think the tyres kind of go off within the 20 minutes.
Right.
Like I said, once they overheat, they're very hard to get the temperature out. Like if you have a spin, then you do have to kind of like be 90% for a lap or two, just to kind of get the temperatures back down and bring the pressures back down. Because after that, it's like ice. So, but I don't think the actual grip does diminish. I will double check next time, and if I'm on the podium next time, then I'll let you know.
Well, I certainly hope that you are. It'll be lovely to chat to you again, Chris Blakey. But thank you very much for your insight. It is very valuable. I think you deserve a round of applause from the broadcast chat if they could oblige us there. Congratulations on P3 once again, Chris, and hopefully speak to you later on.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Cheers, guys.
So we move on then to P2, and the driver that we were hoping to have a chat to this evening is a Mr. Gabriel Norse. How are you doing, Gabriel? It was great to chat to you after Bathurst. Are you quite as enthusiastic about Pascani as you were about Bathurst?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a more fun track than Bathurst, in my opinion. It's definitely different to a lot of the other ones, but yeah, it's quite a fun one.
Yeah, it certainly looks it. We were just chatting to Chris then about kind of its bumpy nature. It seems to be in some parts quite flowing, but in other parts really quite technical. Have you kind of got everything out of this weekend that you expect so far? Are you glad that you're on the podium? Are you looking for maybe a little bit more as we head into the final race?
Yeah, I mean, race one I was hoping to be on the podium, but then right at the end, Jack managed to just nab it off me. But yeah, I mean, that race I was also hoping to win it, but then again, Jack got me, which was a bit annoying. But I mean, he's just very rapid round here, which I just don't have an answer to at the moment. But yeah, I mean, hopefully next race I can actually beat him.
Yeah, I mean, certainly I think it's very much on the cards for yourself, Gary. You've done a very good job at Bathurst after seemingly not really looking forward to it that much. I think if you're enjoying this track, who knows what could happen. Looking back at the championship then after that round, obviously you were declared driver of the round from that one as well, and things seem to really ignite after round two for your championship hopes. Obviously it's still very much early days, but are you already kind of looking at that big title towards the end of the season with how well things are going for you in comparison to everyone else?
Yeah, I mean, at the moment I'm kind of just trying to practice and learn some of the tracks, because a few of them like this one and Assen I just didn't really know how they or what they were before now. But yeah, I mean, I am hoping to win the championship obviously, but I mean at the moment I just need to kind of look at it one by one and see how I can do in each round.
Yeah, very pragmatic approach there, Gabriel. Congratulations on another podium to add to your tally for this season. Hopefully, we'll get a chance to chat to you once more towards the end of this evening. And as I say, very well done and best of luck out there.
Yeah, thank you.
Great, so that was a great insight from Gabriel as well. And now, just as I said, we might get a chance to chat with him once again after race 1. We're going to have a chat with Jack Smith. It was for P3 last time, but this time it's for a race win. Are you pleased with that one, Jack?
Yeah, it couldn't have gone any better, really. It was a quality race. A few little knocks here and there, but I don't know how I caught that first one up. I thought I was gone. But yeah, we just sort of held it. The car just slid round and really nicely and yeah, caught it. Got back up to near the front again, and then yeah, it was just. I was hoping for a little bit more of a battle, but yeah, I think the way it all opened up, I just sort of saw a gap and went, oh, there we go, that'll do, and then went through. So, but yeah, no, just got my head down after that and pumped some quality laps, and yeah, we won it by a fair few seconds in the end. I think I don't know what the exact gap was, but yeah, just sort of got into a flow state at the end there, and yeah, that was it really. It was just yeah, not really that exciting to be honest on the second half of the race, but yeah, it's a job's a good one.
No, such is the way sometimes. I'll feel bad about drivers who are showing, streaks of dominance, really, that, we don't look at them that much on the broadcast. They aren't battling with their friends out on track because you just kind of settle in, as you say, just posting some quali laps. Thomas Potter saying that sometimes he'll chuck some YouTube on maybe, and you're just kind of on another level, really. I mean, I am very glad that my temptation of hopefully the BMW doesn't break down and we get to chat to you again doesn't happen. Yours seems to be far more reliable than my own in real life. So we do have the chance to chat with you again, even with the BOP being quite strong for yourself. So are you hoping to make a repeat of this for race 3?
We'll give it a shot. Yeah, I don't know if I'll be watching YouTube, but yeah, we'll try and get a nice start. I got a really nice start in race 2 there, and yeah, hopefully we can repeat that launch, because I think it's just a normal grid start. I think this one has no reverse, so if we can get that start again and pull away at the start, I think we can have a repeat. But yeah, we just got to get lucky with the start. Hopefully it's a different part of the grid, isn't it? So we'll see. But yeah, like I say, we'll just get to it when we get there, and hopefully we can make a repeat, and I think that's gonna be my goal for the next one for sure. So.
Yeah, I mean, if you make a repeat of that, you'll be looking very consistent indeed. And obviously, consistency is key to a good championship. You were so strong at Assen, you do still lead on points tally, even though you weren't there at Bathurst. So this, I think, kind of continues on your championship fight. Who have you got eyes on for this season? If you're able to make anyone out, who do you think is going to be your biggest rival?
Honestly, it could literally be anyone. I don't really know yet. I could point at anyone, in the top 10 really. The races are just sort of all over the place, and the Audis come out of nowhere sometimes, and you're just like, whoa. So yeah, I mean, first 3 rounds you probably think it's one of the BMW guys, but the second half of the season it could be one of the Audi guys that makes a comeback. You never know. So yeah, I guess it literally could be anyone. I couldn't point a name at the minute.
Yeah, you are very right there. I think it's all up in the air because of the differences in cars and because of what we've seen, how they perform at each circuit. Hopefully, as I say, maybe we'll get another chance to chat with you again. I know I asked this question to Chris. Tyres wise, are they looking pretty good in these cars here at Pascani?
I think the BM wears quite evenly, so you don't really like, you just sort of feel a loss in grip generally. So yeah.
Okay.
It's quite an even wearing track, to be honest. I noticed my pressures are even on both sides, so yeah, it's a strangely nicer track to tyres than what some like Assen's quite a predominantly right-hand track, and you notice loads of wear on the left-hand side of your car. So yeah, this one not too bad. So yeah, it's all right. I'm not too sure about the Audi. I think the Audis might struggle a little bit with the fronts, but yeah, Beamer a little bit looser towards the end. But yeah, that's about it really.
Brilliant stuff. Well, we best let you get back on the grid and ready to go racing once again, Jack Smith. Congratulations on your race 2 victory.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
So great to hear from our drivers once more. Not long now until we get to go racing for our final race of the evening. Race 3 comes up in just a few seconds. The drivers are already on the grid and ready to go. It's Blakey versus Jack Smith on the first row, followed by Norse, Kenny Press, Daniel Heaps, Teapot is back up in the action in P6, so hopefully he has a better run in race 3, followed by Ollie Atkins, Craig Curtis, Alex Forster and Rich Hayden are your drivers in the top 10. Rich Hayden obviously puts a lot of work in organising all of this series. I haven't actually had a chance to chat to him properly for a little while, so personally, I think it'd be quite nice if he gets a podium, just because it would be great to have a catch up. So there's your incentive as the bonnet's up on the BMW there of Gabriel Norse. That's standard procedure for a BMW, really, and luckily it has indeed closed before we get to go racing. Oh, the doors have popped open as well. I think that's an MOT fail if they're doing that of their own volition. So hopefully all of those bits are sorted before they get to go racing. That catches are probably rusted, knowing an old BMW. Either way, only a few seconds until we get to go racing. We see the lights illuminating, and it's 4 red lights on the gantry. We are go for race 3 here at Pascani, ladies and gentlemen. Let's make it a good one last time, that we are going to see 20 cars navigating their way around this Romanian track, which has delivered plenty of action so far. Ollie Atkins, the car that we're focusing on immediately at the start of this race, gets a good start here. I don't think that the Audi has been quite the starting disadvantage that maybe some people were expecting it to be versus the BMW at these race starts here at Pascani. I think so far they've done a really impressive job, as we do have 2 Audis making contact on this race start. Nearly an Audi sandwich there, but Atkins makes it nice, cleanly nice and through. There's Jack Smith now leads the charge. Gabriel Norse has got his bonnet closed and runs in P2, followed by Blakey, Heaps and Teapot. That's your top 5, but overall, certainly, Becky, a cleaner start than what we saw in race 2.
Yeah, we just had a bit of chaos from race 2. Nice and calm again for race 3.
Get out your system.
Always,
yeah.
Yes. It was just, we just needed a little bit of mayhem for then. Just again, like you say, get it out of everybody's system, and then we'll return to some sort of sanity for this race. And again, we've probably spoken too soon, and wait for all of it to go downhill from now. No, again, good to see everybody getting nice clean start. Like you say, again, Audis didn't seem to struggle too much. They seem to keep kind of up with everybody. So nice to see everybody kind of in the battle right at the beginning. Jack obviously leading the way at the moment, but Gabriel, obviously some fighting talk in his interview. He's like, yeah, I'm going for the win this time. I need to beat him. So I'm sure, I don't think, as we've had a spin round, was that Chris Blakey? Oh, yeah. That's so unlucky because he did so well in the last race, and I was hoping he'd have another good performance in again, especially because he seemed generally shocked that he did so well in the last race. So that's so unfortunate. So we'll see what his pace is like once he gets facing back the right way, but he's obviously got a lot to do now, being dead last. But yeah, I don't think Jack was still in the call when Gabriel said about he's coming for him, basically. Or it would have been, actually, because he was the last one we spoke to. So I wonder if Jack's now clued up to it and obviously knows to put all his defensive moves on the table, as Gabriel's already got him. I reckon this is going to be the race for them too. A lot of back and forth, but be mindful because we've got obviously Daniel Heaps and Thomas Potter, who they practice together. So I wonder if they've had a little bit of a briefing beforehand of, okay, right, if this happens, I need some backup.
Very good point, Becky. I do wonder if that type of thing has been going on behind the scenes. You mentioned Norse versus Smith and the battle that was brewing. Well, I'll touch on Norse's interview in a moment because I've just seen a broadcast comment which I'm definitely gonna refer back to in a moment. But as you say, Norse with that confidence that he wants to go for these race wins, and I think Jack Smith wants that as well. He was saying, yeah, a race win's great, but let's bring on a bit more action. Well, he's certainly got his wish, hasn't he? As now he's running along with P2 to his name so far. North just out in front, and if anything, Smith perhaps more focused on Heaps. Heaps has been kind of laying in waiting, it seems, at various points of this race weekend, has got the pace, just hasn't had the opportunity to use it and display it for us, whereas Teapot, as we well know, is on a recovery charge. He's obviously not working his way back up from the back end of the order, but he's trying to make up for lost time, shall we say, in race 2, as we look to have in the background there. That was, I think, an E36 of some description, finding its way into a barrier, unfortunately. But we head on slightly further up to see Kenny Press, and there we go, Jack Smith once more. Down the inside goes Daniel Heaps through the final couple of corners to round out the lap. And Jack Smith does well to cling that car around the outside. Another one, Becky, where the car looks like it's going wide, but it just grips up and it brings them through towards the end there. Heat sets a new fast lap of the race so far. Not going to be all that representative because we're still very early in the running. But yeah, some really on the edge driving from some of these drivers. And now it brings me back, Becky, as it might do for you, to the days with the Club 100, where they run those karts on the slick tyres in the wet. Obviously, you turn in, you get nothing, you're about to go off, then the tyre heats up, then the car makes it round the corner, as I think that might have been something similar to what we saw with Smith, as obviously the tyres are a little bit cold early on in the race.
Yeah, just praying and hoping it's going to grip up at some point, having faith that it will happen at some point, and probably not trying to back out too early and thinking, oh, it's not going to happen, is it? So yeah, it's good to see that confidence in the car and the tyres that they're putting into it. But yeah, Jack wanted, like you said, a bit more action. He's got it, and now he's down to P3. So he's got to start battling now and start getting some overtakes done if he wants to be winning this race. Or he might just again be thinking, I'll just kind of keep it pretty chilled for the first kind of few laps, first maybe like 10 maybe even 15 minutes, and then we'll start really pushing at the end. Everybody said basically there doesn't seem to be too much of a drop off with the tyres and the performance in terms of that. It's more obviously if you have a moment and they get too hot. So that was an interesting insight from Chris. So that was really helpful to actually understand a bit more about obviously what these drivers could do. Then is a case of just keep pushing. Which again, like I've said numerous times this evening, they always will keep pushing to get the best, the quickest lap, and yeah, to get their lap hooked up. But to know that the tyres aren't actually causing any sort of drop off. I don't actually know if we've spoken to an Audi driver though about the tyres, so it'd be interesting to see if they've got the same comments there, and they're not actually, it's not long enough for them to lose performance in that sense. It might just be again more just a bit of an overheating issue. If you have a bit too much of a spin or a bit of an off, that might cause any issues in that sense.
Yeah, really good point there, Becky. It'd be great to see another Audi on the podium just for that. As you say, some really interesting insight from our drivers. They do provide us with some great feedback. To think that they're giving these interviews right in the middle of race weekend. You know, Formula 1 drivers don't even have to do that. And they're doing it right in between race sessions. That is really... the really good stuff from them. You take away some great insight, and fully expect, folks, next week at the Nurburgring GP, I'm going to be very selfish and ask the quickest drivers out of the bunch any tips and pointers for when I go lapping there in a few weeks. And again, as I said earlier on, hopefully don't put it in a barrier. But we're on board with Chris Curtis at the moment. Rich Hayden just in front versus Ollie Atkins, and this will be a chance for Rich Hayden to take away some decent points here. As I've mentioned a couple of times, and I'm not going to let him forget, he was all too right about not being on the podium there. Sorry, Rich. This is what happens when you give the commentators a bit too much or even any feedback. We take it and absolutely run with it. And I'm going to do that as Hayden's currently running in P6, trying to battle with Ollie Atkins. But Craig Curtis has turned up the pace once more. We didn't see too much of Craig from race 2, of course. Things maybe not quite going his way, but I think he's back on the form and ready to score a few more points. Rich Hayden currently 20th in the championship after Bathurst, and he's a driver that I definitely think has some more pace than that. I can pick up a few more points, so hopefully we'll see some more of him later on in the season. Gabriel Norse, in the meantime, as we look at Ollie Atkins, sets the fastest lap of the race so far, 1:47.7. I mean, that was definite. I think we can safely confirm, Becky, that the hot lap time that we saw on the hot lap video that we saw from Jack Smith early on was a little bit of holding back to not to give too much away to his rivals there. I mean, it's all for the love of the game, isn't it?
Oh yeah, you can't give away all your secrets, can you?
Yeah, exactly.
And especially now with Jack with his racing school, he definitely doesn't want to give too much away if he can get people paying for it to get those insights. It's definitely a good marketing strategy there. So very good business head on him there. But yeah, battling on, trying to catch up with Daniel. And again, Daniel, like we mentioned with the last race, he had an unfortunate incident that dropped him back, and he still managed to end up P4. So it would definitely have been a kind of what if scenario there. So he's got a point to prove of actually, I have got the pace. I know I've got the pace. I had an issue last race and still managed to make it up to there. So without any of that kind of added sort of issues, what can I do on just sheer pace, get past these cars? And he could easily win this race. So it'll be interesting to see if he manages to catch up with Norse and gets the overtake done, and then if he can create a margin and then leave them two squabbling behind him, or if he's now just stuck in a little bit of a sandwich for a bit, and might take a little bit of getting to get out of that.
Absolutely, we see plenty of smoke in the foreground of shot there. I think we potentially lost a car. Not too sure if we have. I don't think so. I think I might just be seeing things potentially.
Well, I don't know. Daniel Heaps has dropped back. Yeah, Daniel Heaps has dropped back. So commentator curse there. Sorry, Daniel.
It happens. It always happens. It's how you know you're a commentator, is when you wield unlimited power over racing drivers' fortunes. We in the Club 100 commentary box, what we do is we work in a Jaffa Cakes based system, where if you provide Jaffa Cakes, commentator's curse no longer applies. I don't know why, but it works. I remember the British Universities Karting Championship, one round, Warwick took it too far as not only Jaffa Cakes, but beer. And Reeve wasn't driving for that round to that event, so Reeve had a lovely time in the commentary box that race. Either way, there are probably more interesting ways of breaking the commentator's curse in sim racing. I don't think, postal Jaffa Cakes will work, although...
Let's not rule them out just yet. I don't know. I will never say no to postal Jaffa Cakes.
Postal Jaffa Cakes are available. Good point, Becky. There we go. 10 minutes left on the clock then. There's drivers who are being much more professional about their actions this evening than myself. And Kenny Press is one of them. We're looking at him at the moment. And one thing I must congratulate all the drivers on in this race through so far is the margins. We're past half race distance. Not too big at all, really, are they, Becky? It's at most a couple of seconds here or there. Then Ollie Atkins picks up 5 seconds. But overall, it's always, an 18-car field for race 3. Always a good show when everyone's able to bring it towards the end of the running without anyone being lapped or anything like that. We've had a couple of lapped cars, but overall, I think everyone's been on the pace. Everyone's been nice and evenly matched, and I think they can all congratulate themselves, because even if they haven't been fighting for a top 10 position, they've been enjoying their own battles elsewhere, just like we saw right at the end of race 2.
Yeah, it's always great to see close racing, no matter where it is on the kind of grid. And again, credit to the team that makes sure the cars are evenly matched, so we get this close racing and you get the kind of opportunity. So even, like you say, even if you're a second or a bit off, if you can see that car in front of you, that spurs you on a bit, that keeps you going and pushing to go and try to get that overtake, or at least just keep putting that pressure on that car ahead for them to have a little bit of a moment and have a mistake that then closes that gap even more. So it keeps all very interesting and exciting for both us and the drivers that are going around tonight.
It does indeed, and they won't have much more going around at all. There's only 8 minutes left of this race evening. As we've said already, time flies when you're having fun. I think we certainly have. This has absolutely flown by. An hour's worth of racing has vanished into the rear view mirror as Craig Curtis has a look down the inside there on Alex Forster. Went for a move. I'm not quite sure if it's successful yet. We look at Jack Smith, who's also setting himself up for a nice run here on Gabriel Norse. Gabriel seemed to be pretty confident and composed at the lead of this race at the start of things, Becky, but has very quickly been reeled in by Jack Smith here. Could this be a case, potentially, of Jack Smith just thinking, yeah, this is all great. I know my pace is great late on, so I'm just going to save the tyres for now, wait for the driver in front to maybe run out of grip in their car, and then bounce. This could be potentially what Norse is thinking. What I do want to mention as well in the background is Thomas Potter. He's not too far behind at all. We know he's got some great pace. He's set plenty of purple laps over the past couple of race weekends. And I think he will be poised to get involved in a battle if one is to arise in the next 7 minutes.
Yeah, it's looming large at the moment in their rear view mirrors, just making sure he's noticed by the pair of them. And yeah, we never quite know what's going on in their minds of what's the kind of plan of action is. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if Jack's just biding the time, waiting, because he knows, again, Norse is on a mission. So he knows if he overtakes him, he's just going to keep coming back. So maybe, yeah, save everything until the kind of final few minutes, as Rich looks like he's trying to make a move on Ollie. Looks like he's got the pace, but just can't seem to get round him. The Audi's positioning himself very, very nicely at the moment and blocking any sort of way round at the moment. Very good defensive moves, because it, like I say, just looks like Rich is gaining, but then just can't find that gap to get round him. So yeah, very good defensive moves by Ollie there. Yeah, some yeah, very good at keeping him at bay for just a little bit longer. We'll see if he keeps managing to do that. If he keeps positioning his car like that, it just looks like Rich just can't see the way through the trees at the moment.
No, Ollie Atkins is doing a really good job here. He is the final stopping force in what has otherwise been a relentless charge through the field for Rich Hayden. 15th on the grid is where he started. He's up into the top 5 now. He's wanting to make that the top 4, but this is a great battle, as you say, Becky, that these two are shaping up to be involved in. Curtis and Forster involved in their own battle as well. Curtis looks like maybe a little bit of damage on the front of that A4 there, the bonnet flapping about again. It wouldn't be a touring car race if you didn't see that a bit of damage creeping up on some of the cars. Hayden involved in that action just up front, and we're seeing a battling duo for Dorman and Carroll as well. Great to see, as we mentioned earlier on, so much action going on throughout the field. I am getting news, by the way, in the broadcast chat, so a big thank you to Thomas Potter's family for providing us with this info. Thomas is actually having brake pedal issues in this race, so hopefully they don't look to be too major so far. He seems to be doing a good job of things, all things considered. He's not closing up to the likes of Smith or Norse. That might be, not helping him in his charge towards the front end, but he's doing a very good job of driving around them for the time being. So still a podium on the card here as we see Carroll versus Dorman. Dorman has the inside. Carroll has to go the long way around the scary edge of the circuit. This will give him the inside for turn 3 though. As wide as he runs, that's nearly an IndyCar line there. And Dorman has control of things into the right-hander. Takes P9 in the end. I don't think this battling duo are quite finished with the squabble just yet, though. Still less than 5 minutes to go in this one. Still a couple of laps to be had here as we see a battle for the race lead presenting itself once again. It's been brewing in the background, hasn't it, folks? But now we go once again. Smith versus Norse, a tale that can be told from race 1, from race 2, and now for race 3 as well. And Smith has a look around the outside. Can he hang it around the right-hander? Nothing to do from there just yet. He's a bit too far back. It all comes down to who gets a good run out of the right-handed corner exit here. And Norse seems to be the driver that has got a hold of things and got into the straight line speed pretty well. Obviously, these super touring cars, no turbos, 2-litre naturally aspirated and high revving. You've got to get out of the corner, got to get the car into the upper rev ranges to find any power at all, pretty much. And these two drivers are doing a fine job of it. Just that time, that corner exit, Norse ever so slightly better. Less than half a second separates them, though, as Thomas Potter still might be having brake pedal issues, but is not too far behind at all. If anything were to happen between our leading duo, he would be sat quite comfortably to benefit from it. Kenny Press versus Rich Hayden in the background, meanwhile, is the fight for P5 as Rich seems to settle in potentially for that top 5 position. No. Correct me, I'm completely wrong there. There we go. We see Rich having a brief glance down the inside there. I'm often wrong in my musings about the racing going on in front of me, and I think there is a fine example because Rich Hayden is very much in the fight for this P4. They're a few seconds down on the podium, Becky, but they're having a great time out. I think if we were to be able to have a top 5 driver interview, we'd have some very happy faces in that chat after the race, wouldn't we?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's been, again, like we went back a few minutes ago with Ollie obviously defended against Rich, so there's been some good battles and some good racing and driving going on between that kind of gaggle of cars back there, so it's always nice to see. And again, cutting back forward to these two, and again it just seems like Jack just can't quite get past Norse at the moment. Whether again it is a case of just waiting, as again I might have just spurred him on a bit. Looks like wait to see if he goes for a bit of a cutback. He seems to have been trying to do that quite a few times this evening, especially out of that corner, try to get the momentum out of it and be able to out-drag the car in front, but doesn't look like to have paid off quite at the moment. And again, Thomas, the brakes don't seem to be too much of an issue at the moment. Again, this is me speaking from experience of driving a C1. Luckily, you never really needed to brake too much in those cars, so it kind of probably would have helped if I had a failed brake pedal in that car. Just keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. What a fantastic battle this is. And one thing they are doing is slowing themselves down, bringing Thomas Potter into the mix, as it is going to become a 3-car battle for the race lead. We should get the lap that they start next should be the penultimate, if my maths is correct, because they're going to be just outside of that 1:47, that golden 1:47 second range as they cross the line, just about, in fact. So we might even get another lap after that, as Jack Smith is trying to find a way past Gabriel Norse here. Potter lays in waiting. I think would do well to just kind of hold back for the time being, not get himself involved necessarily, but just wait to see what these two in front of him can do. As you mentioned, Becky, Jack Smith is really eager for this one now. It has looked like on a couple of corners that he is going to get that car out in front. It just seems to be Gabriel Norse is responding to that charge from behind very well indeed. Made up 6 places on the race start has Gabriel Norse. You can see him stamping on the brake pedal there in the indicator on the bottom right hand corner of your screen before he gently feathers in that throttle, slams it down and allows that 4-cylinder engine to scream up towards its red line and break away from Smith ever so slightly. If anything, Smith needs to keep one eye on what Thomas Potter is doing behind, because I think Thomas Potter might be thinking, no, I need to fight for this from P2. So Jack Smith, if you kind of move out my way, let's see if he is going to do that. Is he going to use that gap down the inside as a way past? He thought about it, but I think Jack Smith was wise to it and blocked off the inside line there, keeping Potter at bay. What this has certainly done, though, is it's allowed Gabriel Norse to just break away. That gap has doubled. Bearing in mind it's only a 2/10 gap, it's now doubled to a 4/10 gap, so it's not huge at all. But little moves like that, little corners like that are what is going to settle the race victory in this one, because it is such a close battle. Meanwhile, Craig Curtis is driving the world's... Oh, no, sorry, it's not Craig Curtis. It's Ollie Atkins who's driving the world's widest A4, as that is going to be Craig Curtis off and into the gravel, losing plenty of positions, unfortunately, losing so much momentum, and he will at least score a few points, just not as many as he would have wanted to. 9 seconds left on the clock, then we make our way back onto the start-finish straight, as down the inside goes Jack Smith. It becomes a drag race of 2 E36s. Will this be the last lap? It's going to be Gabriel Norse who takes the race win. No, it won't be. It's going to be Jack Smith. Apologies, folks. That was a photo finish, and I completely missed that one. Jack Smith, a double race victor this evening. What a drive it has been. If you weren't expecting that from him already, I think that is a fine drive indeed. Gabriel Norse brings it home in P2 by the skin of his teeth, and Thomas Potter is a fantastic driver there to round out the podium with brake pedal issues as well. Becky, what do you make of that photo finish?
Yeah, that was very close. I think actually, I don't know if timing screen up that we can see currently is slightly wrong. I think Gabriel might have just got it. On the actual official timing screen I've got
right,
off the server, he might have just got it. But what a photo finish, like you say, what a race ends. And again, with Thomas looming and getting closer and closer as well, I was going to say we can't really take our eyes off it, but then we had to jump back to kind of everything going on with Ollie Atkins defending, with Rich Hayden and all that lot, and then Craig Curtis going off. There was a lot going on in that, literally the final sort of 30 seconds, which is always, again, great to see on a race evening with VRRC. So yeah, very, very entertaining. I definitely held my breath as well for those last 30 seconds. So yeah, great. Absolutely. I love this track. Never been here before, but Pascani definitely brings some exciting racing.
It does indeed. We now see everyone bringing their cars home back into the pit in formation. Nice effort from everyone. I think everyone deserves a well-earned rest after this one. What a drive it has been for so many of them. Norse versus Smith. Apologies for you watching at home if there is some confusion there. I think hopefully you understand why, because it was such a photo finish, and apparently even the technology is confused as to how as to who might have won that one. As I say, Smith, Norse, and Potter are going to be your podium regardless. What a drive it has been. Ollie Atkins, as Becky you were mentioning in our behind the scenes chat, Ollie Atkins has been really consistent this evening actually, so might be on for some accolades as a result of that. Forster brings it home in the top 5. Dorman P6, Kenny Press P7, Craig Curtis P8, Andy Carroll P9, and Kieran Haynes P10. Rich Hayden just out of that top 10. He started 15th, worked his way up to 5th, and I think there was so much mid-pack action he ended up tumbling down the order with some type of skirmish. As we can see, Gabriel Norse pinging the doors open there, probably to allow the cabin of that car to cool down a little bit. I imagine it's going to be quite toasty in there, maybe. I mean, it might not help his sim racing room cool down, but either way, nice to see that he's trying something novel. That brings an end to the racing action from this evening, though. We are going to get a word from our podium sitters in a few minutes, but first, we've got a rather important message I think that a few of us will resonate with.
I've had a lot of challenges in my life, and Helen was always there, supporting me through everything. Today, we're facing a new challenge. Helen has been diagnosed with a terrible disease. Dementia is nothing less than a worldwide epidemic. Formula One moves fast, By contrast, medical research can be painfully slow. We want to bring some of our Formula One technology into the laboratories. Our charity, Race Against Dementia, will help to accelerate the pace of dementia research. Let's beat dementia together.
Well, there we go, folks. A very important message, and great to see the mutual support going on there. Now we are going to have a chat with some of our drivers, who I think are quite pleased and somewhat shocked, as I think some of you watching at home will be. We are going to head into our chat for P3. Things are looking a little bit more settled for this one, and congratulations, Thomas Potter. Lovely to chat to you for a second time in one evening. Another podium to add to your tally. Are you pretty happy with that one?
Happy as I can be. I mean, unfortunate about race 2, but I think I don't really mind that it went terribly, as my brake ended up snapping anyway. So, yeah, which was not the best, but I don't. At least it was only a bad result that ended up happening anyway. So, the worst of the worst, I guess. When race 3 kind of redemption, although my brake, the reason why I was super slow compared to from Daniel, Gabe and Jack, was because my brake pedal was either on or off, so I didn't really have any speed from middle pace corners.
I mean, we knew that you had some form of brake pedal issue, Thomas, but I mean, it's snapping is a pretty major one. I've made quite a few jokes, as some of you will know, over the past of BMWs and breaking down. I'm just sorry that I actually managed to bring it on in sim racing. Apologies for that one, but at least another podium after race 2, as you say. Race 2 didn't quite go your way. Are you able to talk us through what happened in that one?
Well, on the start, I think, I don't know. I know one of them was Chris. I'm gonna guess Craig. I just seen a white car, and I know Craig's is white, but I'm not gonna name names because I don't fully know. But them two came over as I was just there, and I was trying to go around the outside of them both. Didn't end up, and I was in a barrier. Then I think coming in, I think I was alongside Rich at the final, one of my final things, and then I don't think he fully noticed my car there and just got a bit of a tap and in the wall, and then obviously the brake was gone. But other than that, I don't really know. But I mean, at least it ended up on something that I couldn't control, I guess.
Absolutely, you know, I mean, as I said, very impressed that you brought it home with a podium, despite the inability to stop the car, which is often quite useful. And looking forward then to the rest of the season, one circuit where it is useful to have some breaks is the Nurburgring Grand Prix track. Is that one that you're looking forward to, Thomas?
Yes and no. I mean, I can't lie, I was quite happy when I first saw the calendars. I thought we were going to be doing the 4 and Nordschleife, but then realised it's just a GP, so I'm still pretty pleased, but I would have definitely loved to do the Nordschleife.
I mean, that would be very exciting indeed. I'm there at the Nordschleife myself in a couple of weeks, so I'll report back on how good it is. I'm gonna give the GP track a go though as well, Thomas. So I might have to steal a couple of pointers off you to make sure I don't plant it in a barrier. But congratulations on your time out at Pascani, twice on the podium, and a good haul of points to boot as well. So congratulations, Thomas.
Absolutely, thank you. And if I could quickly just do another shout out to all my partners on my car. Obviously a massive thank you to Sylvie Fuels once again for the weekend. It was absolutely brilliant. Also forgot to mention huge thank you to Callum for inviting me around to see his car, as well as he was there at the weekend. I had a lovely chat with him, and as well as Nathan Smith, who is in the British truck race, and it was incredible to see him go around. I got some amazing photos of them both, so thank you to you guys too.
Lovely stuff. All the best, Thomas, and look forward to seeing you next week as well. So we're going to move it on then to an interesting part of our post-race 3 interviews. Now, I can see Rich has joined us in the commentary box. I imagine potentially to clear some things up, because as you might have saw, viewers, it all looked rather interesting at the end there. We love a photo finish, but P1 and P2, Rich, do you have any advance on what we're looking at?
Sorry, I'm just driving around Nurburgring. Sorry, I'm just getting some practice in early. Yeah, I mean, the results are showing Gabe, I think, aren't they?
So, So we do indeed have Jack Smith as P2. Thank you for the confirmation there. We were sat with 2 results looking at us, which is not something I've seen before. Quite an interesting one. But Jack, it is a pleasure to chat with you once again for a 3rd time in one weekend. So another really impressive result there. It could have been a race win because it was mighty close, wasn't it, Jack? What did you make of that one? Oh, do we have Jack? Yeah, he is on mute. So I think
here we go.
I think he's just in disbelief. Are you there, Jack?
I am. Hello.
How are you after that one?
Yeah, no, I was saying as I was muted and talking to myself that I got the oars out and started paddling a bit earlier on out of that corner. I think I might have just had it, but yeah, no, a bit of a tailwind, it might have worked, but yeah, no, I had a right switch back on Gabe, and Gabe had been defending like a champion that entire race, and I think he just made the smallest like little error, breaking just a meter too late, and I got the inside, and yeah, it was so close. I genuinely thought there was another lap, so I just kept on going. I had no idea the race had ended as well. So yeah, I think that's the first exact tie that VRRC has ever had. So yeah, I'm sure it was really fun to watch. But yeah, for me it was a proper race. I mean, I don't know what happened at the start. I don't know whether I ran lower pressures than everyone else at the start, but I couldn't get any heat into the tires or anything, and everyone just drove past me. Got back towards the front towards the end of the race, and yeah, Gabe just couldn't get past him. He was the widest BMW on track there, so yeah, props to him. He did a really good job. So yeah, I think he deserved that one for sure.
I think you both did. It was a really impressive. Something we've seen throughout the weekend as well. Obviously, you've been on the podium at the end of every race, but also you've enjoyed a battle with Gabriel Norse after every race as well. So when I mentioned earlier on, Jack, that is there any rival that you might be picking out? I think, could we be seeing more of this heading into the season potentially? I think we'd enjoy it.
Yeah, definitely. And I know Ollie's currently watching it with us at the minute, but Ollie will definitely be joining in as well. I think it'd be I think main well, you know, Dan was there as well. If Dan hadn't spin out, I think it would have been a 3-way. It might have been a 3-way tie. We could have been looking at something from cars. But yeah, I think yeah, I think there's definitely a group that's going to be pushing on towards the end for sure. So yeah, keep an eye out for sure.
Yeah, definitely will do as we look further into the season. And looking further on to the season, are you looking forward to a bit of Nurburgring action?
Yeah, 100% love the Nurburgring. And yeah, so both 2 German cars as well, so that's always good. So yeah, I really like Nurburgring. So hopefully we can get some more good results there and carry that forward for the rest of the season. But yeah, no, just looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. You say the German cars. I did mean to ask you. I can see you got the M stripes in your car. Have you got one in real life yourself? Do you?
I don't have one. I have a Hyundai in real life. But yeah, I have driven an E36 before. So yeah, they are proper bits of kit, and they're no slouch for sure. So yeah, drove that
it's
around.
Quite a tasty Hyundai as well, though, Jack, isn't it?
Oh, go on.
Yeah, I've taken that. I've got an i30N. Yeah.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a little bit quick for sure. Yeah, I took that on a track. That was quite funny. Didn't really have the tires for it. I was on land sales, not particularly not particularly the best track tire. It was well, I don't know what that is. A responsive front end? No way. Yeah, no, it's a great little car, and yeah, the E36s they're really really good in real life as well. So yeah, just proper like these cars. The touring car like package that we do at VRRC is always great to watch and to race in. So yeah, I really enjoy it when it comes around, and you know, whether it's the modern stuff or the older stuff, it's always class to watch back every single evening. So yeah, always looking forward to it.
Yeah, as you say, they are really capable things. My last time out on track before I head to Nurburgring in a few weeks was with our mutual friend Junaid, and he took his E90 330 out in Donington. Went out with him in the passenger seat. I was blown away by poor old 330. He's absolutely flying it around Donington. We took a VX 220, and I don't think he was best pleased. But yeah, capable things, and that was a good bit of fun. So hopefully. We'll see some more of you later on in the season, Jack, and I'm sure we will have plenty more opportunities to chat to you. All the best and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Oh, for sure, mate. Yeah, and just want to give a quick shout out to everyone at the Hop Cabin. They give me free beer. Well, not currently because he's on holiday, so I'm not particularly best pleased, but I'm sure he's watching. But yeah, shout out to everyone at the Hop Cabin, everyone that comes to watch, and my family as well. My girlfriend's watching. Ollie, who's watching in the lounge in a minute, unfortunately can't be racing with us tonight because he hasn't got a sim. But as soon as he's back at uni, he'll be back racing with us as well. Just shout out to the DK Power boys as well, going down there Thursday to see them all. Not seen them in a while. So yeah, big thank you to them guys and allowing me to do this in real life as well. It's always a pleasure. So yeah, thank you to everyone.
Fabulous stuff, Jack. Congratulations on yet another podium this evening, and waiting very patiently, but very close, obviously, after the end of race 3 there is going to be a Mr. Gabriel Norse. How are you doing, Gabriel, after another podium this evening, and quite a close one at that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty mental finish. Yeah, I thought I'd fully lost it and screamed right after the race because I was so annoyed with myself. But yeah, I think that's the closest finish I've ever had and will ever have in sim racing and real racing.
I think you might be right there. I've never seen a finish that close. Really, I mean, to the point where the technology is confused as to how close. It's great to see that you were just so kind of invested in it. You were screaming. I mean, we did have some broadcast comments in, Gabriel, from Essex Webify. You might recognise them, saying, "Where's the singing?" So have you got a rendition for us to celebrate your race victory, your very close race victory?
Yeah, no, I can't sing at all. So probably I don't think anyone should hear that.
Probably for the best, because who knows, it might be so good that we might get copyright striked. Either way, well done. Really strong weekend here at Pascani. And as I was saying to Jack Smith then, I think I've already kind of got one eye, and maybe Oliver will be involved in it as well. I'm sure he will, in fact. He's a very, very capable driver. I think we're already seeing what the championship might be looking like already early on. Heading into the Nurburgring round, are you looking forward to the challenge?
Yeah, Nurburgring's one of my favourite tracks on the sim, so hopefully I can have just as good of a round or even better next week. But yeah, I need to probably do a bit more practice because I didn't actually download the track until last night. So, yeah.
Well, that is impressive stuff to say that you've with little practice you are already performing so well in this series. I'm wary of time, so I am going to let you get away from us, Gabriel. Congratulations once again for another podium and a race win here as well at Pascani.
Yeah, thank you.
Great to hear from our drivers then, isn't it, Becky? All seem to be pretty happy with that one. And why don't you tell us about our... I'm sorry for putting you on the spot here, Becky. Why don't you tell us about our driver of the round?
We'll give it to Ollie Atkins. Mainly, again, I was mightily impressed by his defending of Rich right towards, mainly during that last race. Like you said in comms, it was the widest Audi there possibly could have been. Kept him at bay, kept the sorry Rich, kept his P4 position, drove really well. Obviously had the kind of the front row start in the second race. Unfortunately did lose out a little bit, but still top 10 finish and had a good finish in the first race as well. So a good evening racing from Ollie this evening. So well done, Ollie. Shame we didn't manage to get him into to have a little chat with us, but I'm sure hopefully we might manage to get him on podium in some of the later rounds and be able to pick his brains.
Yeah, as you say, Becky, I really enjoy getting to find out a bit more of an insight from our drivers. So Ollie Atkins, congratulations, driver of the round for this one. That's something that the broadcast chat was, as you say, was keen on as well. So that's it for Pascani. We move on then to the fourth round of the season, and as you might have already heard, I've discussed it at length already, Nurburgring is the upcoming track for this one. I've been Reeve Taylor. I don't believe, Becky, that you are scheduled to be with us next round, unfortunately, are you? I think you're taking a well-earned break.
Yeah, a couple of breaks. Give everybody a break as well from me, and I will be back at Interlagos. But then, unfortunately, you do have a double dose of me. So Interlagos and Mugello are my next rounds that I'll be covering. But I'll be watching along and catching up with all the action. So I'm sure it'll be great as always.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to Nurburgring, and yeah, I wouldn't complain that we're getting a double dose. Becky, you've done a fantastic job. It's been brilliant to share the comms box with you, and I'm sure the viewers are far more concerned about the fact that they are only halfway through a quadruple dose of Reeve, which will end at round 5. I'm jealous that you get to do Interlagos, by the way. That should be a great one, but that's been the commentary duo for this evening at least. I think all that's left to say now is a very big thank you to all of you for tuning in. As I say, here's the Nurburgring coming up next, and thank you all, everyone, for tuning in. That's it from us.
Between the two of them.
The inside of coats.
Parker gets too heavily involved.
And that's Whitehead and Coates.
Woo!